Network, along with Seth Orensky. I am John Skudras, getting you set to kick off the 2018 Little East Conference Men's Soccer Tournament as your UMass Boston Beacons, coming in with an 8-9-2 overall record and a 5-1 record in the conference, play host to the Southern Maine Huskies at 3-12 overall, with just 2 victories and 5 losses in Little East Conference play. It's a beautiful evening, if not a cold one. Temperatures expected to dip into the low 40s, maybe even into the 30s this evening, as we get you set for a doubleheader of soccer action, beginning first with the men's soccer battle against Southern Maine. And Seth, these are two teams familiar with each other. They played right here at James Cotter Field not very long ago, a 2-0 triumph for the UMass Boston Beacons. But that was a game in which Southern Maine utilized their defensive strategies very well and limited UMass to just 2 penalty shot goals in that 2-0 triumph. What did we learn from that match that we should take into today's game against Southern Maine?
Well, this Southern Maine team was picked 9th in the Little East Conference, and offensively they've struggled this season. They haven't scored all that many goals, towards the bottom of the conference in both goals and goals against, but what they do is they defend well as a team, and that really it stymied the Beacons. It frustrated the Beacons. UMass Boston was a bit too passive. Jake Beverland was very upset with this team after a 2-0 victory over Southern Maine on that Saturday. But what I like to see out of Southern Maine is they were organized. They played well. The first penalty, I think the referee made the right decision as Jonathan Rodriguez was dragged down. The second penalty was a little bit suspect. That game probably could have ended 1-0. And the big thing for this Southern Maine team is they're not supposed to be here. They're playing with house money. Their first postseason appearance since 2008, thanks to a goal with 5 seconds left in regulation this past Saturday on Senior Day. That's the only reason they're here. So I think they're going to be loose. The pressure is on UMass Boston, a team that they don't expect to be going out in the quarterfinals. They expect to be getting all the way to the championship game on Sunday at Eastern Connecticut State. But first, they have to play a composed game today and have to expect to see Southern Maine put a lot of bodies behind the ball and try to play potentially for overtime and even PKs, because that's typically the underdog's best bet when they're not a high-octane offense.
Beacons have just been 2-1 since that 2-0 triumph over Southern Maine last month. They're looking to advance to the LEC semifinal round for the 5th consecutive season this evening and trying to win their 4th Little East Conference tournament since 2014. We take a look at the season stats for both of these programs, and as you see on your screen, the Beacons' offense, while not prolific, certainly dwarfs that of a Southern Maine team that's not even scoring a goal per game. Meanwhile, the Beacons also taking advantage of, should take advantage of their ability to create offense, averaging over 14 shots per game compared to just 11.5 for the visiting Huskies. And the Beacons will look to take advantage as well of corner kicks, over 5 corners per game compared to just under 4 for Southern Maine. And Seth, when you take a look at the numbers there, obviously you talked about the defensive prowess for Southern Maine. If they're going to come away with a huge upset victory today, what are they going to have to do in order to achieve that goal?
This Southern Maine team has gotten back-to-back results, and it's because they've scored a goal in the 89th and the 90th minute in their last 2 games, which means you keep it close, you give yourself a chance where that late goal can get you a result. It was a tie against Husson and now a win over Castleton. The biggest thing for Southern Maine is keep this game close through as long as possible. Can you get this game to halftime tied 0-0 or 1-1? Can you keep the Beacons offense limited? If you can keep this game as a 1-0, 2-1 game, Southern Maine has a chance. If this game becomes a track meet, UMass Boston's going to win it, and they could win it in a big blowout because Southern Maine doesn't have the capability of scoring 4 or 5 goals against a good side. The Beacons are certainly capable. They've done it a couple times this year in conference, including here against a good Castleton team that will be playing tonight. Southern Maine wants this game to be as low scoring as possible for as long as possible, and that's their big key. Keep numbers behind the ball. If the Beacons can score an early goal or score 2 goals, then they're going to have to open up, and that's not what Southern Maine wants to do.
Southern Maine's been shut out 8 times this year. Their high goal production was 3 goals in a September 5th victory over Maine Maritime. So UMass Boston looking to get off to a good start in this LEC tournament and continue their 2018 campaign against the Southern Maine Huskies. We've been alluding to it. Let's take a look now at highlights of their October 6th 2-0 triumph over the Southern Maine Huskies right here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network.
Percentage goals driving with it just inside the 18, looking for the cutback, looking for D'Souza, and it's flicked on time. We've already seen him make one great pass into the box. Here he's looking for D'Souza, headed on, but he keeps changing the field, especially with their back flies it across just the half of the move. The near pass for Anderson. Shot to that post too far. That was it.
Faster we're falling, we're stopping and stalling, we're running up, shaking just as things were looking up, it wasn't good enough, but still we're trying one more time. Maybe we're just trying too hard, when really it's closer than it is too far. Cause I'm in too deep and I'm trying to keep a football in my head. Instead of going under, cause I'm in too deep and I'm trying to keep a football in my head. Instead of going under, instead of going under.
Rodriguez wins it, and it's coming in from Sabina. Rodriguez is taken down, and they're going to give another penalty. Rodriguez and Juan Santero put this game away with 5:28 to go against the goalkeeper. The shot. Cole Deacon's a huge insurance goal. It's 2-1 with 5:28 to go.
UMass Boston looking for their second straight win this season against Southern Maine. That would advance them to the semifinal round of the LEC tournament for the fifth consecutive season. We take a look at three things to know as you get set for the opening kick of this one. UMass Boston and Southern Maine have never met before in the LEC tournament, which speaks volumes considering the Beacons are perennially contenders in the LEC and, of course, have won 3 LEC tournament titles in the last 4 years. The Beacons are also 5-0 all-time at home in this tournament, hence why they're hopefully on the verge of going to the semifinal round for the fifth consecutive season. And the Huskies are making their third all-time LEC tournament appearance, first time since 2008. They lost both of those appearances over a decade ago now in the LEC tournament. Our players to watch, beginning with Rodriguez for UMass Boston, number 24 in white tonight. Jonathan's been outstanding this season. He's made just 5 starts, but he's appeared in 15 games. He's got 7 points, including 2 goals, a shooting percentage of 12.5%, 6 shots on goal on the campaign as he continues to excel for Jake Beverland's club and for the visiting Southern Maine Huskies. Jonata Mbongo is the player to keep an eye on, number 21 for the Huskies. In 17 games, he has 2 goals and 5 points, and he is among the team leaders with 10 shots on goal. Seth, when we take a look at these 2 players and get set for this opener, what are you keeping an eye on?
Well, Jonathan Rodriguez was the only player who was active for UMass Boston against Southern Maine. He drew both penalties. He was looking to go to goal, and that's something the Beacons need to do today because you're going to have to go through 2 or 3 players occasionally and fight through some contact, fight through some defense. For Mbongo, this is the man who literally single-handedly has kind of dragged this team through the playoffs. Before their win on Saturday against Castleton, they were 0-7-2 over the last month and had scored 2 goals. That was a huge victory. He scored in the 89th minute against Husson and the 90th minute against Castleton. If someone's going to be a hero offensively for them, it's going to be him because their leading scorer, Benjamin Musese, 8 goals on the season, 16 points, but he hasn't scored in over a month. So as much as Musese's numbers look great, I'm putting my money on Mbongo as the player to watch offensively for this team because he's been effective over the last couple of matches.
He's been clutch late. They're going to need his magic if they're going to come away with a victory today. Well, you've heard us talk enough about this previewing of the LEC quarterfinal. Why don't you hear from the head coach himself as Jake Beverland caught up with the Beacons Broadcasting Network to preview this matchup against Southern Maine. That's up next right here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network.
I mean, I thought the guys did what they needed to do. The game didn't really mean too much. If we would have lost, we'd still been third anyway. I'd say happy we won, but happy we didn't get any injuries or pick up any cards that would have suspended kids for this game. So kind of happy we're moving on to Wednesday or Tuesday. Yeah, I mean, I think it's no secret most of the time we do better on turf than we do on grass, and we've been doing pretty well at home. So pretty happy that we've been able to get a home game. Wish we would have been able to get a bye, but the tie against Plymouth kind of did us in for that. But we kind of saw it out after that and made sure we got the 3 seed, so I think we're pretty happy with that. I don't think confidence has ever been an issue with us. I think we're maybe a little overconfident at times, but I'd rather be that than not confident. We haven't had a guys score 10+ goals in 2 years, and we've had a lot of those guys in the past. And this year, I think a lot of guys have been scoring, which is pretty good. You don't just have to rely on one. Obviously, we're not scoring as many goals as we have in the past, but I think we're still doing pretty well. I think we still tied for the lead in conference with goals scored in conference, and we gave up the fewest goals in conference. So I think that we're doing something right. That was a horrible game that we played, to be fair. Credit to Southern Maine for doing what they did in that game and their work right defensively. But that game, for us, it was just pretty entitled and arrogant, I think. And I don't think they will get that tomorrow. I think that they're pretty fired up and ready to go. And looking to hopefully having a practice Wednesday morning, so I don't think we'll have to worry about that tomorrow. I don't know. I can't explain for them what their mentality would be like or what their thoughts are on the game. Our expectation every year is to try and win the conference regular season, which we didn't do, and then the conference tournament. So that's our expectation, but we got to beat them to keep moving on. So our expectation is to go out there and make sure we do that. It's the first season that he hasn't switched off. He's actually been focused for once, and that's the reason that he's played and started pretty much every game for us this year. He's kind of the keeper that I thought he was going to that we were bringing in a couple of years ago. And first 2 years, he didn't really live up to that, and he's finally lived up to it. I think the benchings year in and year out, halfway through the season, finally got to him, and I put in the training in the off season. He's seen it out, and he's made some spectacular saves this year and kept us in games. And to be frank, he's done what he should do. He keeps the ball out of the back of the net. That's what a goalkeeper should do.
The national anthem has been played. We are almost set for the start of the Little East Conference Tournament. Let's take a look at the LEC scoreboard. Tonight, the only other match in the LEC, the only other quarterfinal battle between the Castleton University Spartans and WestCon. That one getting underway in about 60 minutes' time. That should be a great battle between those two squads. And as we look ahead at what's to come, the winner of today's game will play the Owls of Keene State in the LEC Conference semifinals. And then the other matchup is at EastCon. And now, of course, the Beacons, we don't want to look too far ahead, Seth, but the Beacons, familiar with Keene State, their last game in the regular season came against the Owls in a big victory for the UMass Boston Beacons.
Well, Jake Beverland doesn't like to talk about confidence and maybe getting on a little bit of a roll, but that was a huge win. It cost Keene State a chance to win the Little East Conference regular season title, which was big for the Beacons because they don't want to play on a grass field either way. So Eastern or Keene, it wasn't going to be a good matchup. But I think the Beacons feel a little bit more comfortable going down to Eastern rather than going to Keene State. The other thing is, when you beat a team like that, especially the way the Beacons did, tying it in the 85th minute, winning it 2 minutes into overtime, it gives you a little bit of confidence in your ability as a team. They weathered the storm against a good team like Keene State. And now the question is, when you're playing a team not quite as good, let's be honest, you go from the second seed to the sixth seed, can the Beacons keep up that level of intensity? Because it was a chippy game, it was a little bit of a dirty game, but it was also a really well-played game. Both teams played really good defense. Both teams attacked well. That's the kind of game that UMass Boston needs to play 3 times in a row if they're going to walk away with their 4th conference title in 5 years.
UMass Boston leads the all-time series against the Huskies of Southern Maine 20-14 with 2 ties. It's just one of only 2 teams that the Beacons lead in the historical all-time series against. The other being the Castleton Spartans, 2-0. So UMass Boston has had the success in the past. They look to taste it again this evening right here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Your starting lineups, first for the Southern Maine Huskies, starting in net is Simon Holbert. He's made 10 starts this year. He's got a 2-7 record with a save percentage of about 68%. In front of him, it'll be Hani Ramadan, Julian Zepeda, Shedi Agbanzalo, Chris Pepin, Yassine Mahmoud, Ryan Gorman, Zechariah Scheibe, Riley Dinsmore-Patch, Janata Mbongo. And, of course, Holbert in net. And for your UMass Boston Beacons, at Omar Castro-Dreyer in his typical red uniform between the pipes for Jake Beverland's club. He'll be joined on the pitch by Estebao Gomez, Euron Texera, Edson Marcus, Rafi D'Souza, Juan Nieto, Leo Herrera, Eric Murakami, Maurizio Martinez, Gerardo Castaneda, and Christopher Garcia. The Huskies are set to start this one. They're in their road gold and blues. The Beacons in their home whites. As we are underway, as booting that one back is Dinsmore Patch, and the Huskies begin with possession. Typically, the Huskies, not known as an offensive team, as we've said, Seth, they've struggled precipitously to score goals this year. They're going to need to do it today if they're going to overcome UMass Boston.
Well, they're going to need to score goals, but I think the first, especially 15 minutes, the big focus for Southern Maine is going to be establishing a good defensive shape. Don't let UMass Boston get an early one. That's got to be the biggest focus that this team has talked about at practice, that they talked about when they were getting on the bus, that they talked about before they got off the bus. I mean, this is huge. This team has not been to the conference tournament since 2008. Mike Keller was the coach of the year back in 2008. He's never won a conference tournament game. You don't need to come out and get that first goal. You do need to make sure you're not in a hole you can't come back from, and that would be seeing UMass Boston score 1 or 2 goals in this first half.
Over a decade now exactly, that this team has made a conference tournament as the Huskies. Program's renaissance begins here in 2018. They'll look to hope it and see it continue here in the LEC tournament as this one comes out of bounds off of Southern Maine. Last one to touch it, Yassine Mahmoud. Beacons will get the throw. As UMass Boston looks to establish dominance early. With possession, Gerardo Castaneda sends it far side for one of the backers. The Beacons slow things up. That's Murakami penetrating the defense with the dribble before turning it right back over to Janata Mbongo, our player to watch today, who, of course, as Seth mentioned, had a couple of critical goals in their victories that got him into this tournament late in the year. And now the early chance on a crossing header in front, and that one headed right out of bounds by Riley Dinsmore Patch, but already a solid start for Southern Maine as they apply pressure on Castro-Dreyer.
Yeah, nice job. Only sending 3 or 4 bodies forward against 5 or 6 Beacons defenders, but a good cross, and Dinsmore Patch got to it first. Just sent it a little bit wide of that near post. This Southern Maine team, they've got some speed. That's the one thing they do have. When you have the indoor 400-meter track champion in the Little East Conference in Hani Ramadan, you can potentially get those balls over the top or try to slide those diagonal passes and win those one-on-one battles. That's what they're going to look to do. It's not going to be 15, 20 passes like the Beacons like to do before taking a shot.
As the throw-in is intercepted, not only by Southern Maine, but then by UMass Boston as the Beacons try to establish an offense. Rafi D'Souza headed towards the box, but it's immediately sent from whence it came towards midfield as we'll get a whistle and the Beacons will get a free kick.
Dinsmore Patch came from an offside position there trying to win possession back for Southern Maine. He's trying to occupy one, if not both, center backs right now for UMass Boston because they had a lot of success in the first game against Southern Maine. UMass Boston was controlling the ball for 75% of that game because they were allowed to pass it around the back four. Mike Keller obviously wants to make it a little bit tougher on the Beacons' back four and not give them as much easy possession.
Free kick here to be taken by Maurizio Martinez for UMass Boston as the Beacons and the Southern Maine Huskies get the LEC tournament underway. Later on tonight, Westcon and Castleton will battle for the right to advance to the semifinals. That's a long stretch on that free kick that went off of the noggin of one of the defenders for Southern Maine and almost snuck by the netminder Holbert, but Simon was game to make the save.
Yeah, it's a dangerous ball at the foot of Mauricio Martinez, and that's the last thing you want to do, head the ball backwards towards your net. Holbert was aware to it and wasn't hit that hard, but interesting move there as the Beacons nearly had a chance out of nothing.
Leo Herrera turns it over at midfield, taken away smartly there by Mahmoud. Yassine drops it back. His partner in crime, Julian Zepeda, sends it forward. And this one trickles towards the Beacons box where Castro-Dreyer will do cleanup duty and grab that one to set things up with 41 minutes to go in half number one.
Yeah, but they were looking for Ramadan there. He stands at just 5'7", 144. Not your typical forward, but because of his speed, he's a target player for Southern Maine and someone that UMass Boston's going to constantly have to know where he is on the pitch.
Ramadan, number 3 in blue and gold. Currently situated at about the 42-yard line of this hybrid football soccer pitch, as this one is out of bounds off. Oh, no, they're going to say maybe a handball there. Yep. So the Beacons will get a free kick, and I believe doing the honors will be Leo Herrera.
No, they're going to let Huron Texera step up. They're going to try to take this into the box on a potential dangerous free kick.
Good chance for a strike here as the Beacons send this one on the free kick right on in, headed out of harm's way by Janata Umbango. Near side, fighting for it, is Herrera. Herrera keeps it in bounds, but good penetration on a defense as they pressured him into turning it over, but it does come out of bounds. Beacons will get a throw in towards midfield.
It's another well-struck free kick by a Beacon center back, though, getting that ball just a little bit shy of the 6. A nice job by Mbongo to rise up on the header, and that's what you're going to see a lot. You're going to see attacking players for Southern Maine defending close to their own 18-yard box today.
Forcing the turnover, Ryan Gorman. This one does come out of bounds, and the Huskies will keep it as number 15, Ryan Gorman, will throw this one in. On the far side, right between the two benches, Southern Maine and UMass Boston here in the LEC tournament in 2018. One of these two teams' seasons will end today. The Beacons hoping they can continue on to the semifinal round for the 5th straight year. On the near side, Esteval Gomes hands this one off near side for Herrera. Herrera fakes the move to the left and then comes to his right before cutting back towards the sideline. This one comes out of bounds off the foot of Zepeda, and so a throw in here for UMass.
It's a good help defense there. We've seen it a couple times where the Beacons have tried to attack with Leo Herrera on the near side, and Yassine Mahmoud has come over and helped out his left back because Herrera not only has maybe a bit of a speed advantage on Julian Zepeda, but also he's been able to get around him once or twice on the dribble.
They rolled that out of bounds off of Southern Maine, so a Beacons throw. Doing the honors there, Herrera off the chest of Gomes, and now taken in and sent back to Leo. Crossfield pass there from Edson Marcus. Taken in and moved towards the sideline by Murakami. Murakami can strike this one towards the center of the box. Instead, he goes right through the legs of a defender. Nice play. Connecting there with Nieto. Juan setting it up for a header in front. And that one, a good save made as the Beacons getting the early chance there, as it was Christopher Garcia who was using his head on that one.
No, I think that was Juan Nieto, the guy who ended up right behind Garcia, who got a bit of it. But it was a great play by Murakami not to just hit that the first time. Was able to maintain his composure, get around the defender. And then it was a really nice play. Actually, you're right. Nieto fed Garcia there. But it was a nice job by Nieto not to just try to force the shot on his first touch.
Near side, Beacons with possession. Here's Herrera. Herrera feeds it up towards the corner of the box. Beacons may just go give and go here as Herrera got the pass right back from Nieto, and now setting it right up in front. Another deflection off one of the backers for the Huskies. Almost leads to a golden chance for UMass. That's twice now.
Yeah, and again, the Beacons really seem to like the matchup of Herrera versus Zepeda. That little overlapping run, and Herrera, who's not known for his attacking style, has been having a lot of success. That was a really dangerous deflection there that easily could have gone in. Holbert's been tested a lot, and really it's been more his own team that's tested him rather than the Beacons thus far.
Mahmoud tried to saucer that one in, but instead it's intercepted by UMass. Beacons moving back the other way. Rafi D'Souza, nice play as he just lobbed that over the defender, that being Gorman, and now the Beacons streak the other way. Knocked out of bounds right in front of Castaneda, coming off of one of the backers for the visiting Huskies. We are just about 9 minutes into this one. Still no score. Stretch towards from the far side to the near side box as this one is blocked down on a strike attempt from just outside from Juan Nieto. As coming back the other way with possession is Mahmoud. Mahmoud connecting there with Ramadan, as we had mentioned, is one of the fastest players in the conference and a very dangerous player one-on-one. Gorman back towards the middle of the pitch, but intercepted by Garcia. And UMass Boston outnumbered, though, as these Huskies are not afraid to leave 3, 4, maybe even 5 men back throughout the duration of this one to protect against any Beacons rushes as this comes out of bounds and a player is down on the pitch. And I believe that's Ryan Gorman on the far side in front of his team's bench.
Yeah, they're going to stop the clock at this point. It was interesting because they let a lot of physical contact go previous to Gorman trying to make that slide tackle, and I think he might have caught a little bit there. Believe maybe it was Rafi D'Souza on the far side who tried to go over the top, and he might have caught a little bit of the cleat, a clean play, totally inadvertent. But Munir Malik is establishing that he's going to let a little bit go. There was some grappling there, some pushing. It's just very interesting to see the tone, especially in a playoff game, a win or go home game, how much physicality a referee will let go. And Malik has clearly established that he's going to let a little bit go, which is probably a good thing. You don't want to see guys carded. You don't want to see a red card come out in a game like this and not have a key player going forward. But it appears as if Gorman is a little bit shaken up. He's going to come off the field now. Southern Maine hasn't subbed him off, so he can come back, and it looks like he will.
Yeah, as you said, Gorman stepped off. Now will come immediately right back on after the injury as this centering feed in front is off the post as Garcia took the feed off the right foot and sent it off the far side post. The Beacons that close to striking early.
Really interesting. Another nice ball from Nieto. And the fun part about that for UMass Boston is because they've been able to maintain as much possession as they have, Chris Garcia, who for the most part is playing in the middle of that Beacons defense, sometimes a defensive midfielder, sometimes a box-to-box midfielder, when he's going forward, gives the Beacons even more guys in the box, even more opportunities because Southern Maine's going to have to man-mark one extra player, and that was a great look from the freshman.
Nice play there as Zepeda moves forward, but he sees that one turned over. Good defense by Marcus. Far side, keeping that one in is Mbongo as he and the Huskies set it up. Gorman, who was on his back moments ago, back on his feet and sending that one forward as the Huskies approach the Beacons' half of the field. Here they come, the Huskies on the prowl, near side for Mahmoud. Yassin, one-on-one, hesitates and then gets this one kicked away. Good defensive effort by Esteval Gomes as a throw-in coming here with 34:38 to go. That throw-in right into the box, knocked down. Beacons defense unable to contain Dinsmore Patch. Riley already had a chance earlier in this match as this is Mbongo taking it and setting it up for an opportunity for a far side pass from Zepeda. Knocked down. Couple of Beacons fighting for it along with Dinsmore Patch, and the Beacons emerge from the fracas with control as they will play pitch and catch. Gomes sending it back, and the Beacons will slow things up to try to set up their offense.
Well, and it's funny. Dinsmore Patch has been an effective center forward for Southern Maine today, badgering the Beacons' back line, being a target for his players. But the first time we saw these two teams play, he was coming off the bench, and it was Benjamin Musese, the team's leading scorer in that role. Musese has not played well, hasn't scored a point in the last month. It's Dinsmore Patch getting the start today because maybe while he's not as likely to score, he provides a little bit more energy and a little bit more physicality against a strong Beacons defense.
Absolutely. The Beacons have had their way with Southern Maine of late, and certainly earlier this year in the 2-0 victory, they really limited any chance the Huskies had offensively, though UMass Boston didn't exactly light the world on fire either, with both those goals coming via penalty kick as that one trickles to the far side. Now here's a chance for Nieto and company. Nieto trying to set things up for the Beacons, and there's a strike from just outside the box that sails high and wide as the Beacons continuing to come oh so close. I believe D'Souza is the one that let that one rip.
Good effort, and again, Juan Nieto getting involved on that left side, creating some opportunities. His pass was initially knocked down, but it fell for D'Souza. Just lifted it a little bit too high. Like what I've seen thus far from Rafi, he's coming off an injury. He's not 100%, but he's been active. He's creating opportunities. And the nice thing for the Beacons is they have some really talented goal scorers who are coming off the bench. Julio De Silva, who scored the game-winning goal the other day, has 6 of them a team high on the season. He'll come off the bench today along with both Reven and Jonathan Rodriguez, guys who were effective in Game 1 against Southern Maine.
Aggressive defense from Mbongo, our player to watch for the Huskies. But too aggressive, say the officials, as Gomes gave that one up, but he was pushed in the back by Mbongo, and so another free kick coming for the Beacons in a dangerous area.
Yeah, but I wonder if the Beacons take this short. They prefer to take it short and maintain possession, and this time they will.
Good call, Seth, as Texera sent it far side for Martinez instead of attempting any sort of long lobbing feed towards the box. Beacons with possession. Near side, Herrera, Leo, finds an opening in a lane and then tries to feed it for Garcia, but that one way off the mark, and that comes out for a goal kick.
Yeah, just a bit too much on that pass from Herrera. It was the right idea because you had Garcia in a little bit of space, running away from goal, but just a bit too much. Again, though, UMass Boston is trying to stretch the field. They're trying to stretch that Southern Maine defense, open them up, moving left to right, create a little bit of space. And that was a nice job doing it off the free kick, where instead of just trying to hit the ball hard into the air, where they don't have the vertical size that Southern Maine does, they were able to stretch them and create an opportunity to get a pass into the box.
First free kick here for the Huskies. Off an infraction for UMass Boston. And Southern Maine will try to take advantage and keep possession.
Well, I think they're going to be the opposite. They're going to try to hit the ball long. I mean, they have quite a few players who are well over 6 feet.
This one's sent towards those trees in the box for the Huskies. Deflected off of UMass and out of bounds. Letting that one go smartly, I believe, was Zepeda. And now get a chance for a throw.
Yeah, it wasn't a good ball from Chris Pep, and you want to loft that one higher. And we're going to get an illegal throw in there on Southern Maine, which should never happen at this level, and it gives the Beacons the ball back.
So another turnover by the Huskies, who, as we've mentioned, come in here with just 3 wins on the campaign. Not often you can say that you can make your conference tournament in that fashion, but 6 of the 9 teams in the LEC make the tournament, and the Huskies were able to sneak in with a late run at the end of the year, as this one comes out of bounds off of UMass Boston, as Mauricio Martinez lets it go.
Well, a big part of that is the conference expanded to a 9th team with Castleton, and the conference voted to expand the LEC men's soccer tournament, which was my favorite tournament format, with just the top 4 getting in out of 8. Now you have 6, so realistically the LEC is typically had 5 really good teams on the men's side. 1 good team got left out. They added a 6th, and give a lot of credit to Southern Maine. They lost a lot of their top players from a season ago and were able to be that 6th best team thanks to a big win on Senior Day.
Here's a chance for a left-footed strike, but not getting much on that one was Charlie Mull, and so that one gobbled up easily by Castro Dreher. Charlie plays both goal and midfield, also dabbles at forward. He's really a Swiss Army knife for these Southern Maine Huskies. And he got an opportunity with the left foot there, but not able to get much on it. Still, though, the Huskies have applied more pressure than you would have expected in the first 10 minutes of this one. I'm sure Jake Beverlin expects more out of his club here. Beacons still tied 0-0.
I really like Mull. He's a guy who was a second-team all-conference player a season ago as a back. Today he's playing defensive midfielder in a pinch when you need a guy who's just going to hustle and be really aggressive. You can throw him up there at forward. I mean, he literally will do anything for his team, and he's one of a number of seniors on this Southern Maine team who are in the conference tournament for the first time and who really want to get to that first conference semifinals. Remember, Southern Maine is only making their 3rd ever LEC tournament appearance. They've never won, so a chance for this Southern Maine side to make a lot of history today. They can upset the Beacons.
History made in Boston earlier this week with the Red Sox winning the World Series for the 4th time since 2004. The Southern Maine Huskies, meanwhile, hoping that New England and their success can translate north, as Gorham, Maine's own, has an opportunity to win their first ever LEC tournament game. From the far side, sending this forward. Good play by Gorman as he deflects that feed from Murakami, intended for Castaneda. Out of bounds. Beacons throwing ensuing here as this one's tossed towards Garcia. Garcia sends it far side. Nieto, one touch back to Christopher Garcia, but Garcia was unable to settle it down. Jockeying for possession and a whistle as Garcia is going to be the one guilty.
Yeah, Garcia gave Ramadan a little bit of a hug there. Wasn't going to be able to keep up with the smaller, faster player. But I like that UMass Boston is varying the guys who are making these runs. The fact that Christopher Garcia, a guy who typically you wouldn't see make as many of these runs. I mean, he is playing in that attacking midfield role today, but it's been an interesting situational strategy from Jake Beverlin. The one thing about Garcia is he's a little bit bigger. He is a little bit better in the air, and he can fight off some of those Southern Maine defenders who are not only quick, but a lot of them are pretty strong.
Garcia on the campaign, just 2 goals, which puts him tied for 5th on the squad. By comparison, the Huskies have only 1 player with more than 2 goals. It's the aforementioned Musasi, who hasn't done much over the last month. As the Beacons trying to go back the other way, turning that one over was Murakami as he was trying to connect on the streaking Rafi D'Souza. But the Huskies give it right back before the Beacons hand it right back over as Gomes can't settle it down. This one's sent all the way back where Omar Castro Dreher is going to have to hustle as the ball trickles right in, and then Castro Dreher throws up the forearm to protect himself as he was almost collided with.
Yeah, I liked the defensive hustle by Southern Maine. They were able to win the ball back after the Beacons picked the loose ball up a couple times, but you can't just ping it down the field without an objective. Right now, Southern Maine, they're not going to get a lot of the possession. They don't need it, but when you do win the ball back, give yourself a chance to possess a little bit, to slow it down so that UMass Boston can't win it right back and put the pressure right back on your defense and goaltender.
One touch feed, and now moving back forward. It's Yassine Mahmoud. Mahmoud gets tripped up right at midfield and writhing around on the ground. Is Yassine Mahmoud favoring his leg?
I think it's his left ankle. Yeah, it must have been contact there, maybe with the spike on the left ankle as Mahmoud went down and immediately started slapping the turf right at midfield. And we will stop the clock. It's interesting. We've already seen two Southern Maine players go down, and we're going to see a conversation with Gomes. I don't know if this is a yellow card coming. It's just going to be a conversation between Munir and Malik and Gomes, because it wasn't all that dangerous of a tackle. It wasn't malicious in any way, but if you get caught by the cleat just a little bit, it's never fun to get spiked, especially on a day like today where it's so cold here in Boston after a couple of nice days.
Expected to be in the 50s or 60s tomorrow for the Red Sox World Series parade. We're not getting any of it tonight as this free kick is sent towards the box, headed in by Mole before being sent right back out. A good defensive effort by Martinez. Gorman keeps it on the Southern Maine side of the pitch, the offensive side that is. Garcia taken down from behind, and that's an easy whistle. And right after Yassine Mahmoud gets taken down, he comes in and is guilty himself. The Beacons try to play quickly to catch the Huskies off guard. Good play keeping it inbounds on the effort by Gomes. Esteval moving from the near sideline towards the center of the pitch, connecting with Nieto. Nieto unable to penetrate through the defense led by Ramadan, and Hani then is going to see that one deflected, and we're going to get now the whistle and a foul on Southern Maine.
Well, I think at this point, you might have to have a conversation with Mahmoud because he just was called for back-to-back whistles. That was pretty obviously a challenge he wasn't going to win. And it's interesting that Malik won't have the conversation there after having a brief, friendly conversation with Gomes. Again, though, I don't think we're going to see many cards. It seems like Malik is going to let a little bit go, and it seems like he's a pretty friendly guy where he's going to give those warnings, whereas some refs try to give out that first yellow card to establish that I'm not going to take any kind of flack from either side.
Here come the Huskies looking to exalt their will offensively. Dinsmore Patch settles it down, comes back towards midfield. One touch by Mole to the near sideline for Zepeda. Zepeda sets it up for Yassine Mahmoud. Mahmoud, stretch pass far side, looking to connect there with number 17, Zachariah Scheibe, but unable to do so as this one sent all the way back towards the netminder Mole. Charlie settles it down, and he'll reset with his defenders and backers in front.
I don't mind that ball, though, from Murakami, because if you do have a Beacon running there, could catch the defense a little bit off guard, and it was lofted perfectly. It was just that UMass Boston didn't have anyone far enough upfield to attempt to make that run.
Mahmoud off the chest and off the right foot, but good pressure defense. Staying right with them there was Esteval Gomes. One touch feed, Garcia connecting it from Rafi D'Souza, but turns it right back over for Mbongo. Mbongo far side, finding his partner in crime, Charlie Mole, as this one's headed back towards the center of the pitch, taken in and then sent near side by Gomes as the Beacons and the Huskies continue to battle. Of course, this has now been, 110 minutes without a non-penalty kick goal for either of these clubs as they played each other this year. So these are two teams familiar with defensive battles as Dinsmore Patch gets taken down on a good tackle by UMass Boston. A good play there by Gomes.
Yeah, well, we've seen quite a few artistic plays from both sides. A nice job by Marcus to nutmeg a Southern Maine defender there. But, again, we saw a Southern Maine player pass it right through the legs of Nieto. I think both of these teams having fun right now. Yes, we have a 0-0 game, but I think that it's been a little bit more of an open game than we saw in early October, and both teams are playing with a little bit more attacking flair than that first game where it was not the most interesting of soccer games.
Well, Huskies are used to 0-0 games. In fact, they had a game earlier this year against Dartmouth that ended 0-0, despite playing double overtimes. Dartmouth, of course, the first team out, the 7th seed in this conference, therefore missing this 6-team tournament. As UMass Boston with possession.
Well, the other thing is both of these teams are second-half sides. Southern Maine has scored 11 of their 15 goals in the second half. The Beacons have scored 21 of 29 goals, or 22 of 29 goals in the second half in overtime. They haven't scored each of their last 7 goals have come in the second half. They haven't scored a first-half goal in about 3 or 4 weeks.
And the Southern Maine Huskies haven't scored a road goal since September the 29th, over a month, against Western Connecticut, a 4-1 loss. Beacons now with possession. Marcus sends it far side, trying to keep that in was Castaneda, but he could not do so with the right leg. And so another turnover here for UMass Boston with 21:40 to go.
And this is a good start for Southern Maine. A little bit cautious early on, a couple times where they deflected the ball back at their own net, and Hulbert had to come up with not phenomenal saves, but had to make stops on balls that could have gone in. Right now for UMass Boston, you got some early pressure, but since then Southern Maine has kind of smothered you. Be interested to see if Jake Beverland goes to his bench sooner rather than later, brings on the Julio De Silvas, the Jonathan Rodriguez, Reven Rodriguez for a little bit of energy, but also for a bit of a spark. It's that first goal in today's game, especially first goal if the Beacons can score it, is huge because it would create a little bit of a problem for Southern Maine because they wouldn't be able to sit back as much. Well, they haven't really been playing with 11 players behind the ball like we expected. Dinsmore Patch has been playing forward. They've also been leaving one of their 2 attacking midfielders up top as well, trying to keep the Beacons from pushing all their numbers forward.
Benjamin Musese is going to be checking in shortly at the next available opportunity for the visiting Huskies. He's their team leader in goals. Beacons also getting a substitution momentarily.
In fact, it'll be both of the top scorers for these sides. Julio De Silva comes on for the Beacons. He'll replace Castaneda. And you'll see Musese. Musese is actually going to come in the midfield. So they'll play 2 center forwards on the field, although Musese is going to try to use his speed on the near flank.
So Musese, 8 goals on the campaign. But Seth, as you said, all those goals coming in the first half of the season. He has been shut out down the stretch for a Huskies team that's desperately needed his offensive prowess.
I mean, Musese had 8 goals and 16 points. When these two teams played on October the 6th, he has 8 goals and 16 points still, and has had just 10 shots in his last 8 games with no points. You can't have that when you're a team that struggles for goals, and this is supposed to be the top goal scorer.
Here comes a throw-in from the far side to the right of the corner. Nice arm as that one is launched in towards the far side post, but kept out of harm's way by Mbongo. That one off the foot of UMass Boston's number 16, Eric Murakami, to the far side. That lobbing feed off the shoulder of Gorman as fighting for it and trying to move it forward and then sending it near side, and unable to connect was D'Souza. Now we are going to get another throw in here for the Huskies.
Yeah, D'Souza was looking for De Silva, but just a little bit too high. It was still rising when it went over the head of Julio.
Riley Dinsmore Patch will get a chance to catch his breath. He'll be replaced out there by James Hutchison, number 30 for the Southern Maine Huskies.
Checking in for the Huskies, number 30, James Hutchison.
Hutchison, another guy who they'll play up top who doesn't have a goal this season. Dinsmore Patch had just 6 shots. Hutchinson has 8 shots. So a little bit non-traditional, but realistically, Southern Maine scores with their midfielders a lot more frequently than with their forwards, especially with Musese playing in the midfield today.
Beacons almost getting a whistle drawn on them, is collapsing down on his own half of the field. I think that is Zacharias Scheibe, as here's an opportunity for Hutchison, freshly entered into the game, but that one knocked away by Martinez. Immediately popping up with Scheibe, so he is okay. Near sideline, Ibrahim Mohammed, who just checked in, tries to boot that one towards Hutchison, successfully doing so as Hutchison heads it over to Mull. And Mbongo sends it far side, but the Beacons intercept and move forward. Rafi D'Souza, from right in front of Jake Beverland almost, sends it back and will head back to his attacking role. The Beacons and the Huskies 0-0 still, which is under 18 to go in the first half.
Well, the problem right now, you saw it there. The Beacons had 5 players in the offensive half. Southern Maine had all 11, and they're kind of breaking it down where it'll be 2 lines of 4. So if you can get through those midfielders, then you have the backs right behind them. It makes it really tough. You have to execute your passes and really make smart decisions. If you try to dribble through them, you're probably not going to be successful. And if you're trying to take a shot from outside of that front four, you're taking a shot from 30, 35 yards out. And Southern Maine has confidence in Holbert to make the save.
Holbert did just make a save on a ball that I think was probably heading out of bounds anyway. Now taking it away is Julio Da Silva. Da Silva, a very aggressive attacker here for UMass Boston, as evidenced by his performance right there. But this one comes out of bounds, and so the Huskies will keep it on a throw.
Well, Da Silva scored that game-winning goal on Friday night against Keene State, a minute and 48 into overtime. Gerardo Castaneda found him wide open at the near post, and Da Silva took a second touch because the first touch he was kind of so stunned that he had that much time and then blasted into the top netting. He's a guy who's been injured, and since coming back from injury, he hasn't had much success. That was his first goal in 6 games. But when he's going, he's that elite goal scorer the Beacons need.
Speaking of going, as Da Silva got the feed and tried to use his head from D'Souza, another chance as that one is sent wide of the net there by Gomes. So the Beacons continuing to come close, but no cigar here for Jake Beverland's club in the first half.
But that's huge. Rafi D'Souza is playing the role of playmaker rather than goal scorer. He's consistently looking to drive towards the net and find a teammate because everyone knows on the Southern Maine team, D'Souza is the most talented player. D'Souza is the guy who can dribble through you, who can score from 30 yards out. So if you're able to draw the defense and then leave it off on a one-on-one, that was just a nice play by the defender getting to that ball first. Da Silva got his head on it. He's 4 or 5 yards away from net and has a great chance to beat Hulbert. The Beacons are starting to create good chances, and they're going to bring on Nelson Cardoso, who's another player who's got really good foot skills and is strong going forward.
Ryan Gorman throwing it in for Southern Maine. Jockeying and battling for it is Musese. The Beacons take it away, and now with possession to Souza, but this one comes out of bounds, and we will get that substitution, as Seth alluded to. And Nelson Cardoso, number 19, checking in for UMass Boston, as he'll replace Christopher Garcia as a forward for Jake Beverland.
And Cardoso's a little bit more of an attacking player than Garcia. Garcia's true position is in the defensive midfield, but today that spot is occupied by Edson Marcus, and you don't need a second player against the Southern Maine team that's not that good going forward. So Cardoso, who has struggled for playing time at points, but is a very talented player, at one point was on the, I believe it was the U16 team for Cape Verde. He's a guy who could really be a spark plug for UMass Boston, has a panache for really good crosses, and that could work out for the Beacons.
Getting tripped up, there's Cardoso, no whistle. And this one does come out on the clearance attempt by Mbongo. Beacons will get the throw in from near midfield, as this has been a defensive battle from the start, just as we anticipated. Giving it right on back and getting it is Herrera. Herrera strikes it back into his own half of the pitch for Mauricio Martinez. Martinez takes it right towards midfield before dropping it back for Texera as the Beacons look for open passing lanes. Near side Herrera, as that one's deflected out off the Huskies, and so doing the honors of throwing it in Gomes. Esteval getting it right back from whence it came and now trying to center it into the box. That one eludes the head of Juan Nieto and therefore forces a turnover as Mbongo moves over midfield with it. The Huskies trying to outrace the Beacons back into their own zone, but unsuccessful in doing so. Great effort on a play made there by Eric Murakami, who got all the way back and now continues to move forward, setting up an offensive rush potentially for UMass Boston. Nice long stretch feed, but just out of the reach of D'Souza, who runs out of room.
Right idea by Cardoso, just a bit too much weight behind the ball. What a run from Murakami, who raced all the way back to intercept the pass, then dribbled through a couple of players, was able to release UMass Boston. I mean, that's what the Beacons need. We've seen it from Herrera, especially early on, creating some opportunities on the overlapping run. This time it's Murakami on the far side. The Beacons need their backs to be involved with this many guys sitting back for Southern Maine. Also, when Southern Maine does counter, it gives the Beacons a chance to, if they can come up with a turnover, to really create some chances because Southern Maine doesn't have 8, 9, 10 guys behind the ball.
UMass Boston and Southern Maine 0-0, 12:50 to go as the Beacons and the Huskies battle here in the quarterfinal round of the Little East Conference Tournament. A cold evening as nightfall begins to envelop the sky shortly. The sun setting behind us as a throw-in here coming from Gorman and the natives of Gorham, Maine, the Southern Maine Huskies with possession. momentarily before the Beacons take it right back over. That's Cardoso. Far side, Beacons in a cluster of both Huskies and UMass Boston athletes. Eventually turn it over. Mole will connect here near side with Ibrahim Muhammad. Muhammad, one-touch feed, streaking forward Zepeda. Julian, one-on-one, turns it right back over. Good defensive effort by Gomes as Esteval hands it off for Cardoso, as he will move left to right, and now coming back near side, connecting with Leo Herrera. Herrera sees an opening in the middle as he tries to feed it right into the box, but a good play by Mull, that Swiss Army knife jack of all trades, doing it on defense, and a substitution for UMass Boston.
Well, the Beacons didn't make two passes that I would have liked them to have made. Cardoso had De Silva to the left. Instead, he elected to dribble some more to the right, and then Herrera's got to release that ball a full second and a half earlier. D'Souza had a wide gap, and then all of a sudden both defenders recognized it and created closed down on the passing lane for UMass Boston.
So the Beacons had a chance in the box. The turnover leads back to a rush the other way. Muhammad out raced towards the ball. Good speed from Leo Herrera to catch up with Ibrahim Muhammad, who had a step on him at first. It does come out off of UMass Boston. His helping out was Gomes. He was the last one to touch it. Mbongo gets the pass in. Mbongo triple teamed here. He's going to have to find a passing lane. He cannot. Good defense as Gomes got in the way of the passing lane. Comes out of bounds for another throw here for Zepeda.
Yeah, UMass Boston's getting a bit more attack-minded with this group out there. You replace Nieto, who typically plays as an outside back, with Crespo, who was the leading scorer a season ago at Nazareth. Hasn't found that scoring touch yet at UMass Boston, but it gives the Beacons a few more options, and Crespo's a player who's very good on free kicks, has a very strong left foot. So if the Beacons can create an opportunity here, get that foul within 30 yards of net, then they could really get a good look on a free kick.
It was Josh Crespo that just set up an opportunity, and then right in front of strike, they score! Rafi D'Souza and the UMass Boston Beacons are on top first, dancing like it's a party, and it is, as the Beacons lead it 1-0 with 10:27 to go in the first half of play. So UMass Boston getting the goal here, as getting the strike there on a beautiful feed. And scoring ultimately, it is D'Souza as the Beacons get a 1-0 lead.
Julio De Silva made that play, though, rushing down, tracking down the ball, keeping it in bounds. His work rate has been so high. He hasn't been giving up on the ball. We saw him steal a goal kick on a ball that easily should have been Southern Maine's, and there he's able to track it down, and the goal scorer feeds the playmaker. D'Souza's been looking for De Silva. He returns the favor, and Rafi did a great job of being calm, not taking the shot first touch, creating a little bit of extra space, and a really good finish back post.
There's a chance for redemption as Musese, looking for his first goal in a while despite 8 on the year, is denied by Castro Dreher. And yeah, you said it. Coming off the bench, Julio De Silva with an excellent feed in front for De Silva, and Rafi knew what to do with it as he tucks it near side.
And the funny thing is, that's the first assist of the year for Julio De Silva. He had 6 goals, but that's his first assist. And for Rafi, that's his first goal in a while. So good news for UMass Boston, because you have 2 players who are coming off injuries who had been struggling, and they're able to combine for a big first goal. Because, again, Southern Maine now has to score a goal. That means maybe not right now, but in the second half, maybe around the 65th, 70th minute, they're going to have to stretch, not keep as many players late. That's when you hit them on the counter, get a second and a third, and then that's the track meet we talked about in the pregame. Southern Maine cannot afford to get in a track meet, despite the fact that they have track athletes on the field.
So De Silva picking the right time to get his first assist of the year as he sets up D'Souza. And the Beacons lead it 1-0 against a team that they shut out earlier this month, 2-zip. And now the Beacons looking for more. They may smell blood in the water here as Crespo. An opportunity to set up Cardoso. Cardoso from the corner of the box retreats back towards the sideline and loses it out of bounds. I think Gorman was the last one to touch it, and he was. So a Beacons throw, and Crespo will come on over.
And this is why Nelson hasn't seen consistent playing time. He's looking to dribble too much. Keep feeding the ball. Look for your teammates. Create opportunities. That's what the Beacons need a little bit more. He's such a talented player, but he hasn't made that full transition from being able to dribble through the opposition in high school to using his teammates here at the college level.
Forcing the turnover there was Gomes. Got it to De Silva, right back to Esteval. Esteval looking for the feed, and looking for a handball was D'Souza. And it doesn't look like the referee saw it.
Oh, I don't know if he didn't see it or if he didn't agree with it, because that certainly hit the hand. Now the question was, is it a handball within the realm of the rule? The ball can hit your hand and it still would not be a handball. That was at the side. I could see why Munir and Malik didn't call it, but it was certainly close as D'Souza, again, being unselfish, got the ball in the box, immediately was looking to feed Golems on a give and go. This has been the good version of UMass Boston today. They've been really unselfish, looking to continue to move the ball, and their work rate has been really high, especially their attacking players.
So Beacons leading at 1-0, looking for more as this feed near side comes out of bounds.
Not the best look from Euron Texera, who's been so good in his first season as a center back.
I believe Reven Rodriguez just checked in for the goal scorer, Rafi D'Souza. It is Reven, number 21 in white. 7:15 to go, first half action. As the Beacons lead at 1-0. And checking in DeJesus, that's Abidum DeJesus. They have two, as well as Fis DeJesus. I'll get it. That is a tongue twister and a half.
This might be one of the most challenging matchups in terms of the names on these two sides.
Absolutely.
Although Castleton men's team, they're pretty difficult as well. We saw them back in late September, and they have quite a few players who have immigrated to the United States, just like both of these teams. The one thing about it is it's a lot of fun to watch these teams play because they're a little bit more interested in opening up and playing some fun soccer.
UMass Boston, their own half of the pitch, settling things down here with that 1-0 lead. They'll look to continue to pressure as they've really, as we expected, played the majority of this first half in Southern Maine's half of the pitch. That one comes out of bounds, and it'll be a goal kick coming here for the netminder, Simon Holbert.
These last 6 minutes are so big for Southern Maine. You can't afford to give up a second. You're already in a difficult spot, down 1-0, but it's close. I mean, you can get that goal back on a penalty in the box, off of a free kick, off of a fluke counterattack. That's doable. Giving up a second here, and then you're really back against the wall going to the second half. For UMass Boston, you have to be smart here. You want to get that second goal, but don't open yourself up to giving Southern Maine a chance to get back into this game with the goal of their own or even a little bit of momentum. Southern Maine hasn't had a good look in well over 20, 25 minutes, if at all, in this game. They've had one or two shots, but really haven't tested Omar Castro-Dreyer.
Yeah, Southern Maine's only scored more than one goal on the road twice this year. A 3-0 victory on September 5th against Maine Maritime and a 4-2 defeat at the hands of Pine Manor on September the 17th. As the Beacons will get their first corner here. An opportunity to get that 2-0 lead you were alluding to. This one struck towards the near side as that one just eludes the opportunity there for Julio Da Silva as he was approaching it on the near side post.
Someone's got to attack that ball. That's a perfect ball through the goal mouth. Southern Maine doesn't really go for it. They're not sure. And realistically, Da Silva's probably the guy that has to be there at the back post. He was kind of waiting, seeing if it was going to take a deflection. Attack that back post. That's what you're always taught to do. So much on corner kicks and free kicks is just about who wants the ball more, willing to go through a little contact. And that time, Beacons let a really good opportunity slip through their hands.
Beacons averaging over 5 corners per match compared to under 4 for the visiting Huskies. Beacons getting an opportunity there, but all for naught as the UMass Boston moves forward to Silva. To Silva, nice pass for Cardoso. Cardoso in, but a good defensive effort and aggressively booting that one out, Chris Pepin. But another corner coming here for UMass Boston.
Yeah, let's see if UMass Boston's a little bit more aggressive this time around at going after the ball. They don't have the height of Southern Maine, but they do have a couple players who can get up there. Da Silva has good height, as does Reven Rodriguez. And Mauricio Martinez, we've seen, he's capable of putting a really good ball into the box.
Martinez ready, sends it far side, and that one headed out of harm's way initially. Good defensive effort there, as this one is lobbed back by Mauricio Martinez into the box, but back out of there as that was Abidam Ghebrejesus who made the initial block on the corner kick, comes out of bounds for a throw.
Southern Maine's really trying to keep fresh legs out there. They've cycled through 7 or 8 subs at this point with 2 guys coming in right now. It's a big way to keep yourself in it if you're the underdog. Make sure you have the fresh legs. Also, the Beacons played Friday night. Southern Maine played early Saturday morning, so they're not quite as fresh as the Beacons, but that shouldn't make a big impact, especially everybody's a little bit tired at this point in the season after going through your entire 17 to 20 game schedule.
Luange Bill, one of the players who just checked in for the visiting Huskies of Southern
For
Maine.
the Huskies, number 16, Kevin Dowling.
Kevin Dowling also entering into the affair as Castro Dreyer gets the feed from Texera, sends it right back to Huron with 2:35 to go in the first half. Beacons leading it 1-0 on a goal from Rafi D'Souza. Looking to advance to the semifinal round of the Little East Conference Tournament for the 5th consecutive campaign.
Southern Maine is playing a really high line when the Beacons have the ball on their own side of the field. If UMass Boston can get the timing right, you could play a ball over the top, especially if you can get a diagonal run across and really create some issues for Southern Maine, because both Holbert and Mull, who have played in net this year for Southern Maine, not exactly the same type of keeper as Omar Castro Dreyer. Their save percentage, goals against average, is a lot lower. And a second goal in this game, remember, that's essentially a killer for Southern Maine, the way their offense has been playing. They did get 2 in the last 20 minutes against Castleton on Saturday, but that's a little bit of an aberration of how their season's gone. They've mostly been a team that they're going to score, if they're going to win a game, they're going to score 1 goal, or maybe they're going to score 2 goals over the course of 90 to 110 minutes. It's not going to be a pair of quick strikes.
Beacons get possession off the turnover. Crespo will defer on this throw-in with less than 90 seconds to go here in the first half. Beacons will look for one last chance for Romance further catch their breaths. Near side, Texera gets the pass and lobs it forward with a launching pass with his right leg. Eludes the head of De Silva with the Beacons 3-on-3 the other way. Good feet in front. A chance. Settling this one down is number 21, Reven Rodriguez, but he immediately gets his pocket picked in the attacking box.
Again, Nelson Cardoso taking too long on the ball. The Beacons had a 3-on-3. They're not going to get another 3-on-3 in this game unless Castleton opens it up, as Edson Marcus is called for throwing out an elbow there behind the play. In that situation, Cardoso has to release the ball and trust that he's going to get it back. And instead, he dribbled a little too much. Then he found Reven Rodriguez. It allowed Southern Maine to get 5 bodies back. And that cost UMass Boston a little bit. That was a really good opportunity. UMass Boston has the skill offensively to be really effective 3v3. And instead, they weren't even really able to create a mini chance.
Last chance here with 23 seconds to go, and a great save from Castro Dreyer on Hutchison as bearing down with an opportunity to tie it were the Huskies in the waning moments of the second half. Still 15 seconds to go here in the first half. Beacons are able to take it away and pound it all the way down. That's Gomes. And then he goes down to one leg as he may be a little hampered here at the end of the half. And that should, for all intents and purposes, wrap things up for an exciting first half. But what a turn there at the end. Not only the opportunity for the Huskies, their best chance of the day, but now one of your best defenders, Esteval Gomes, really one of your best midfielders all around, is down.
Yeah, he's holding that left knee, and Gomes has been pretty healthy all season, so we'll see whether he's able to continue. But right now, UMass Boston they're about to get chewed out by head coach Jake Beverlin, because the Beacons did exactly what I said they couldn't afford to do. Take it easy, give Southern Maine that chance. The good news is that Omar Castro Dreyer is playing really, really well. He made a couple of similar saves against Keene where point-blank save, able to knock it away. But that's a really bad ending to the half for UMass Boston after they were able to score a goal late to give Southern Maine a little bit of confidence. That's what the Huskies need. As the underdog, they just need a little bit of confidence that chance could be there. And we saw the Beacons blow a chance on their side, and then Southern Maine nearly capitalized on the other side. Nelson Cardoso, he's young, but he's so talented. He's got to be a little bit smarter. I want to see more out of Cardoso and the Beacons in the second half, taking advantage of the few opportunities they're getting. So it looks like Gomes is at least able to hobble to the sideline. Interesting to see if he's able to go. The Beacons do have players who can fill that role, but Gomes leads the team with 5 assists, and he's played a lot of defense throughout this season, so he's a really nice midfielder because he recognizes his defensive responsibilities as much as any of the Beacons midfielders.
Well, the Beacons cannot do without their depth, and we'll see if it is impacted by Esteval Gomes' late first half injury. You mentioned the performance of Omar Castro Dreyer against Keene State. The winner of this game will be taking on the Owls of Keene State in the semifinal round. The Beacons, well, they'll be familiar with them because they concluded their regular season with a 2-1 overtime triumph against their rivals from New Hampshire. Let's take a look at highlights of that 2-1 triumph here on the Halftime Report, right here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network.
Opportunity here.
Quem vai pra ousadia hoje dá grito. Quem vai trair a namorada grita eu. Vem com MC Ricardo, vem. Eu vou pra ousadia, eu vou pra cachorrada. O quê? Hoje eu quero trair a minha namorada. Eu tô cansado de caô, de sufocação em casa. Hoje eu quero trair. A minha namorada. Vem. Eu tô cansado de caô, de sufocação em casa. É nesse pique assim, ó. Olha, a mulher não vai ter jeito, eu sou cachorrão. Mas já que você tá pedindo, vai rolar traição. Porque na moral tô ficando cabreiro, com mulher da rua eu não gasto dinheiro. Ela que quer me bancar. Quando quer um pente a danada me chama. Não tô nem aí, se é mulher do programa. Já vi teu carro, moto, no celular. Eu vou pra ousadia, eu vou pra cachorrada. Hoje eu quero trair a minha namorada. Eu tô cansado de caô, de sufocação em casa. Hoje eu quero trair, hoje eu quero trair a minha namorada. Tô cansado de caô, de sufocação em casa. Quem fecha com o Ricardo vai cantar assim, ó. Eu vou pra ousadia, eu vou pra cachorrada. Dá um grito pra mim, quem vai trair sua namorada? Eu vou pra ousadia, eu vou pra cachorrada. Dá um grito pra mim, quem vai trair sua namorada?
UMass Boston goal by number 23, Julio De Silva, assisted by number 3, Esteban Gomez.
UMass Boston heads to halftime with a 1-0 lead over the Southern Maine Huskies as both of these squads battle and will battle for 45 more minutes in the second half for a chance to take on Keene State in the semifinals of the 2018 LEC tournament. Let's take a look at the stats at halftime. And Seth, as you take a look at those statistics, the Beacons with the lead in shots on goal, but not by much, as the Southern Maine Huskies have done a good job sticking with UMass Boston.
Well, the chances, which is not a collegiate stat that's kept, would be heavily in favor of UMass Boston. Southern Maine's really had only the one chance. It was a great one, point blank, in the final minute of play. UMass Boston, they've had a lot of near chances, a lot of balls where they're looking for the head of a player in the box in a good spot. They just haven't been able to connect, or they're looking for that pass in the box. The Beacons have been very patient and not forcing things, which is good for the Beacons. The one thing that I'd like to see a little bit more out of UMass Boston is making that one more extra pass. We've seen Julio De Silva and Rafi D'Souza do a really nice job of looking for the right pass. Nelson Cardoso wasn't quite doing it enough. It's been the younger players. Realistically, Raven Rodriguez hasn't been doing enough. Juan Nieto was doing a great job. Eric Murakami. Younger players have to realize that it's going to be even harder to score here in the postseason, and you have to be unselfish. It doesn't matter who's the hero today. It's just about survive and advance, especially when, as a 3 seed, you're going to have to do it on a neutral site against the higher seed on Saturday for either of these sides. And then on Sunday, you're likely playing either Eastern, who's the number 1 seed and will be playing at home, or you're playing either the defending Little East Conference champion in Western or the defending North Atlantic Conference champion in Castleton. So no matter what, Sunday is going to be tough, and we saw Keene State on Friday. They're a very quality side. So UMass Boston's got to be crisper because you're not going to have as many chances against the Keene State, and Keene State is going to be better going forward. So you really have to take advantage of the chances you get and be unselfish. That's the biggest thing for this Beacons team. Sometimes they try to play a little bit of hero ball, and that's never going to work.
Now, if you're Southern Maine coming into the second half, you've had really only that one chance, but as we mentioned in the pregame and as we were speaking before we even went on the air, this is a team that is going to play almost 11 men back. I mean, they're going to look to play mostly defense, but now you trail 1-0 in a do-or-die affair. What is their coaching staff discussing here, and what is their strategy got to be going forward?
Well, I think Mike Heller's going to be pretty happy, especially with the first 30 minutes. They were able to not 100% camp out in their own end. They pushed the ball forward a couple times, didn't really create much, but they have to be happy because they did create that one opportunity where the ball was pinged into the box and it fell to a player, because sometimes the Beacons defense does nap a little bit. The other thing is 1-0 is fine. You can sit back through the 60th minute, maybe even through the 70th minute, down 1-0, and hope you get that one chance. The longer that it's 1-0, the better chance Southern Maine has. If the Beacons can add a second goal in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the second half, Southern Maine's in trouble because they're going to have to push numbers forward. And when it's an open field, it's a Beacons field because they're so good on this smaller space. And we've seen it happen a couple times where the Beacons are able to get out to early leads. That's when they blow teams out. When it gets to the 60th, 70th, 75th minute, it's a little bit tougher. And the first time against Southern Maine, it was a 1-0 game going into the final 5 minutes of the game because Southern Maine didn't need a victory, but also because the Beacons weren't able to capitalize on their chances. Southern Maine wants another game where they're within a goal or even tied going into the last 10 minutes. Because remember, Janata Mbongo, the late game hero, has done in the last 2 games in the last 2 minutes of contest, and he's looked really good to me. Hasn't been going forward as much, but has been their best player. Very active, very good at tackling and pushing the ball forward.
Mbongo with 2 late goals the last 2 games and victories for the visiting Huskies as they advance the LEC tournament for the first time in the decade. We'll see if the third time is a charm for Mbongo and Southern Maine. Let's look around the LEC scoreboard. Of course, only one other game tonight. That'll be WestCon hosting Castleton in the other quarterfinal battle in this LEC tournament, as the Spartans will look to pull off the upset as the 5 seed on the road. And then looking ahead, of course, on Saturday, the winner of today's game will take on Keene State in the LEC tournament semifinals at EastCon at 3:30 p.m. That should be a promising affair no matter who emerges from this fracas with a victory. Well, of course, as I mentioned earlier, it is a doubleheader here on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. After the men's game, the women's soccer squad will get a chance in their LEC quarterfinal, also a 3 seed, as they take on the Spartans of Castleton, who come in as a 6 seed. Let's take a look at the LEC quarterfinal preview right here on the Halftime Report on the Beacons Broadcasting Network.
Well, it was a competitive game, that was for sure. Keene certainly played very well and pushed us. I think it was also a good way to finish out the regular season, playing a hard game, going into playoffs where the playoffs become a whole new level. There's so much at stake with the one and done. So I think it was a good test before going into the playoffs. You know, I think with any long trip, it can take a little bit to get your legs back under you. I think we just need to come out like we have in the second half of games, putting a lot of pressure on them. And, you know, our work rate's going to determine how this game goes. You know, I think the takeaway all season, not just that game, has, you know, we got to play with composure. We got to play with a sense of urgency. You know, no matter who we play, you got to play it like you're playing for a championship. And now that's no different. You know, we got to be able to play simple, move the ball, do what we need to in order to attack, and we just got to get bodies in front of the goal. When it comes to attacking them, it's really, we have to be able to possess. We got to be able to move the ball, create for each other. On the flip side of that, we got to be able to defend well. They can get in behind you quick. They run some set pieces that you need to be aware of. And really, when it comes down to this game, a set piece could win or lose it. With Belondo, you know, we got to be organized back there. We got to be able to pressure her and also have support behind who's ever pressuring her to make sure she doesn't get through. We can't give her time or space, or she's going to take advantage of that. Attacking wise, you know, we got to do what we've been doing all year. We got to, like I said, we got to create. We got to put their goalkeeper under a lot of pressure, challenge her, whether that's shots from the outside or creating combinations. for crosses, but we have to be hungry in front of the goal. It's that one run, that one toe poke can make a difference in this game as well. The upperclassmen, I think, all year have been doing a great job in preparing the freshmen for this moment. They have nothing to lose. When you're playing with 9 freshmen at a time on the field, like the expectations, they're carefree right now. There's all the pressure is, whether you're a 3 seed or a 6 seed, you just got to go out and play. This is going to be a tight match, and I think anyone can see that. But it's a matter of bringing it. And, Jackie's really stepped up when we've needed to push numbers forward and create. And she gives that, she runs through everything, and I think that shows a lot. Taylor just, when she's defending and tackling well, she can get forward and create for us as well. And I think that's the big thing. Can we get our numbers forward and keep pressuring them and win balls early in our offensive half, and hopefully we'll find success.
Welcome back to the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Along with Seth Orensky, I'm John Skudras. UMass Boston women's soccer later on tonight will look to advance to the semifinal round of their respective LEC tournament with a victory over Castleton University. Meanwhile, the men's team, in just a couple of minutes, will be back out at it for the second half. Let's take a look around Beaconville before we get a preview of the second half action. Women's soccer, of course, as I mentioned, tonight at 7:30 on the Beacons Broadcasting Network. Women's hockey, meanwhile, is at Endicott College at 7 p.m. this evening, as the women's hockey team, looking to continue a solid start with a new head coach behind the bench for them, and volleyball will continue their LEC tournament aspirations this week as well. Seth, we get about 70 seconds until the opening tip for the second half. Beacons will control possession to begin second half of play, and as you look back at the first half and look ahead to the second, what do you like to see from Jake Beverlin's club, and what do you think Jake Beverlin said to his team at halftime?
Well, I think Jake Beverlin just wants to see a little bit more of the attacking instinct from this UMass Boston team. They know that they need this second goal. They know this second goal will open this game up, and they can play like they want to play. They can play against a defense that it isn't going to have as many guys behind the ball, that is going to be forced to go forward. Realistically, UMass Boston, I think 2 or 3 players had really good offensive first halves. Rafi D'Souza and Julio Da Silva played really well together. Connected, were unselfish. Eric Murakami was playing well going forward. They also need to get a little bit more of their defense going forward involved. We saw Leo Herrera make a couple early runs, and then I don't think we saw him go forward once the last 30 minutes of the half. Get guys pushing forward. Edson Marcus was totally sitting back, and partially that's because the way Southern Maine's playing with that high center forward. But for Southern Maine, I think that their coaching staff's going to be happier than the Beacons. Obviously, you didn't want to give up that goal, but you were able to create that last chance. You're able to limit the Beacons' opportunities, only the 7 shots. For Southern Maine, the biggest thing right now is you have to keep the Beacons from scoring a second goal, probably period, but certainly for the next 20 to 25 minutes, and you have to capitalize on your chances. They've had one good one, and Omar Castro-Dreyer stepped up and made a big save, but the Beacons can't rely on Omar to continue making big save after big save like he did against Keene State the other night, making 10 of them with about 6 of them being very difficult saves.
Omar Castro-Dreyer and his Beacons teammates switching sides. They'll be moving right to left on your screen here for the second half. Likewise, left to right for the Huskies in gold and navy blue. We are underway here in the second half as UMass Boston controls possession. Eric Murakami with it, sending our side for his partner in crime, Edson Marcus, on the back end as Marcus connects with Texera and moves this forward. Texera gets it right back from Esteval Gomes before Yeron sends it back towards the Beacons forwards, settling it down, dribbling it far side, and then sending it there that way is D'Souza, as the UMass Boston Beacons leading 1-0 here in the second half of play. 44-25 to go, separating the Beacons from a 5th consecutive trip to the semifinals of the Little East Conference.
Well, the first good news for UMass Boston is Gomes is back on the field.
As Da Silva sees that one intercepted by Gorman, and then this one pounded out of play by Charlie Mull, so Beacons will get a throw. Yeah, you're right. That would have been a big loss for the Beacons defensively, but also in the playmaking realm. Good to have him back out there.
And Beverland's going with a senior-laden group, or at least an older group. Nieto's back out there, D'Souza and De Silva with Josh Crespo and Gerardo Castaneda. This is a more offensive group, and I think Beverland's going for the kill right now.
That's a bad turnover by the Beacons. 4-on-3 now as Mbongo leads the rush. He's been Mr. Clutch over the last couple of games for these Huskies. Far side, though, the Beacons defense able to catch up as Mbongo and company were not able to force any pressure. That was Mbongo feeding Yassine Mahmoud, but Mahmoud got caught up to and turned it back over. Now coming back into the Beacons attacking zone, Zacharias Scheibe sending it far side for Mahmoud, but the Beacons intercept and send it out of play. Should be out of bounds off UMass Boston, so the Huskies will hurry on over for a throw.
That's a chance for Southern Maine. It was really a 4-on-3, 3.5 as the Beacons had a player who was a little bit behind. You got to get a shot off there. When you're down 1-0 in a must-win game and your team's not all that good at scoring, even if it's not the best look, you have to get an effort on target, and there's another good effort from Dinsmore Patch. Didn't really have time to settle it and really put one on target, but at least got the ball off. I mean, it's pretty simple logic, but it's very difficult to get that goal that you so desperately need if you're just trying to pass and pass and pass and look for that perfect opportunity. Sometimes you just need to uncork a shot and hope that it maybe takes a deflection or fools the goaltender.
As you said, Dinsmore Patch uncorked one, but way up and out of play as that forced a turnover and a goal kick. Beacons now with possession, settling it down for UMass Boston was Gomes, as there's an opportunity from just inside the box, but that was D'Souza unable to connect there. And UMass Boston with 42-18 to go sees a goal kick coming here from Simon Holbert, the netminder for the visiting Huskies.
And then D'Souza did the exact opposite there. Gomes just was trying to kick it through a lot of traffic. It was knocked down for D'Souza, but Rafi didn't recognize that there wasn't an offender really close to him. He had time to maybe take a dribble or two and drive towards net. Instead, he just uncorked a shot wide, and Gomes is whistled for the handball.
Handball on UMass Boston, and so a free kick coming from right at midfield for Southern Maine, as that one is pounded forward by Chris Pepin towards the box, but gobbled up easily there by Castro Dreyer with a man in his face, and the Beacons retain possession.
That's how Southern Maine created that one chance in the first half off a long free kick where the ball just pinged around a little bit.
Martinez sending it far side for Edson Marcus. Edson getting it back from Gomes. Now near side yet again for Martinez. Pitch and catch towards midfield. And the Beacons now moving forward as De Silva's taken down by Gorman. Began to go down by his own volition, slipping up on this turf. As getting it again, De Silva. One touch right back to De Silva by way of Nieto and Crespo, who did not start the first half but is starting the second half. And now with possession, Ramadan, one of the fastest players in the conference, but he defers to the far side for his Husky teammates. And now here is that big man, our player to watch, Mbongo. Man, when he gets ahead of steam, he's like a Mack truck. Good luck stopping him as this one's saucered out of play by Zacharias Scheibe.
Yeah, I mean, Mbongo's big, and that time he was really smart because he recognized that Texera was there to potentially knock the ball away, and he fed it out wide. The cross was just a bit too strong. Jonathan Mbongo's a fun player to watch. I don't remember him being an impact player that first time around against UMass Boston, but today he's looked really good, and maybe it's just a little bit of confidence after scoring 2 goals in the last 2 games. Sometimes that's all it takes, especially for a young player. You get a goal, you get an assist, a big play, and all of a sudden you start believing in yourself, and you start going on a nice little goal or a point streak and really being a more productive player.
Mbongo listed at 6 feet 192, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that big as a human being, but as a soccer player at the D3 level, that's pretty large. Native of Portland, Maine, on the far side here, watching Rafi D'Souza, the Beacons goal scorer, strike it near side off the head of De Silva. They score! In the first half, De Silva found D'Souza, and in the second half, the opposite occurs as Rafi finds Julio, and just like that, the Beacons get that second goal. It's 2-0 UMass Boston.
Give Leo Herrera so much credit. The overlapping run on the far side created space for D'Souza, opened it up where he had time to make that cross, floated it just high enough to find Julio's head. And Julio De Silva, the Beacons' top goal scorer, has a goal and an assist. Rafi D'Souza has a goal and assist. And the Beacons have not lost this season when Julio De Silva scores a goal. 4-0 coming into today. Well, probably going to make it 5-0 unless Southern Maine can get one back soon because, again, they did score 2 goals in their last game. That was at home in the last 20 minutes. But they haven't done it much this season, and with 40 minutes left, they're going to have to open up, and the Beacons are going to start to get some more opportunities. It's going to put a lot of pressure on that back four in Simon Hulbert.
Castro Dreyer with a goal kick here as the Beacons lead it 2-0. In the first half, D'Souza scored from De Silva. And here in the second half, it's De Silva from D'Souza. A tongue twister of epic proportions, but either way, it's, well, sweet as candy as the Beacons lead it 2-0. And getting taken down from behind by Mull was De Silva moments after he scores. And now that sets up a free kick from a very dangerous area. Instead, the Beacons defer to keeping possession, is connecting near side, and holding on is Murakami. Eric trying to send that one on a lobber over the head of the netminder, but that one misses the mark over the crossbar with 38:30 to go.
Yeah, it just didn't quite hit it the way he wanted, but Murakami's one of the Beacons' top point scorers this year. He's got 4 goals and 2 assists, so you don't mind that out of Eric. But UMass Boston did exactly what we wanted to see out of them, get that goal in the first 5 to 10 minutes, because Maine hasn't opened up entirely yet, but they're going to have to, especially in a playoff game like this where it's do or die, and that's going to create some opportunities. It's also going to allow UMass Boston potentially to maybe play a second defensive midfielder to protect this lead if they want to. It's up to Jake Beverlin how he wants to attack these final 40 minutes.
Certainly is. From the far side, trying to connect there was Zepeda, trying to find Yassine Mahmoud, but it does come out, and they'll say Southern Maine will keep possession. 37:40 to go here in the second half of play. The Beacons now leading 2-0 over Southern Maine in an effort to get to a battle against Keene State, a rematch of their last game of the regular season. In the semifinal of the LEC tournament, give-and-go attempt from Murakami to Nieto, but Juan was unable to get it back to Eric. And immediately turned over for Southern Maine to move forward. Dinsmore patch, knocks it back towards Mull. Mull mulling his opportunities as he sends it far side over the head of the Beacons' defense. That was Herrera. Down the baseline there, the end line I should say, and then almost able to center it in front, but we get a whistle and a turnover.
Yeah, that ball went just over the goal line. Southern Maine was hoping that maybe the push was a little bit, was maybe enough there for a foul, but you're not going to get that, especially in a postseason game. But it was a nice look from Mull. Rather than just trying to blast one from distance, looked for Zachariah Scheib and had him on the backside. Scheib, though, just trying to do a little bit too much, so he tried to loft that one over the defender and run onto the end of it.
Mull lobs that one forward, looking to connect there with Zachariah, as we said, but Scheib unable to catch up to it. And now, from midfield, sent back in. The Huskies, since giving up that second goal, a lot more aggressive offensively. From the far side, moving towards the center of the field and taken down. No whistle. And the Huskies of Southern Maine don't like that. The Beacons outnumbered the other way 2-on-3. D'Souza doesn't mind as he connects with De Silva. These two have found chemistry today, but unable to do so there. Good intercept and clear by the Huskies.
Yeah, really nice job by D'Souza to get that turn on a defender, but just not quite enough there to pass a bit too far ahead of Julio De Silva. It's been really fun to watch those two players play together. They've not only connected on both goals with each player scoring once, they've also created a couple of other chances where they've gotten shots on goal or just missed getting shots on goal from good areas. If those two players can play well together, it gives UMass Boston a chance because the Beacons don't have that go-to goal scorer like some of the other teams do. Chauncey Allers for Western Connecticut State, such a phenomenal talent. Eastern has their freshman Adji Mag, and Keene State has a couple of great goal scorers. So it'll really be on the Beacons to get goal scoring from a number of players, and the top two options are probably De Silva and D'Souza.
It was Shedi Agbanzalo who made the defensive effort moments ago to stop the rush of D'Souza and De Silva, and now a free kick coming off a handball for the Huskies, but from way back in their own territory. As we are about 10 minutes into the second half, the Beacons have scored that all-important second goal. It's 2-0. The exact score there, victory on the 6th of October against these Huskies, as that free kick is sent far side, right into the corner of the box, setting it up here for a chance, but an aggressive and smart play by Castro Dreyer to come on out and potentially turn good defense into offense. And coming up is Mull to apply pressure on Nieto and prevent any chance of that happening.
On John, each of the past 2 meetings have finished 2-0. The Beacons scoring a goal in the first half and second half last season here at home. Then this season, with the schedule changing, the Beacons have hosted Southern Maine now 3 consecutive times, and that Dosa 0, which is more famous with the U.S. men's national soccer team. Beacons probably would like a few more, but they'd be happy with the result today. I think that clean sheet is the big focus going forward the rest of the way, especially for Omar Castro Dreyer in the back 4.
Castro Dreyer's had a spectacular season rife with shutouts as the Beacons netminder continues his illustrious career on Beaconville as that stretch feed by Eric Murakami connects, and the Beacons have numbers as De Silva finds De Sousa, but he had to stop at the lip of the box there and was unable to penetrate any further as it's cleared.
But anytime those 2 players are attacking, Southern Maine's got to be a little bit scared because both of them are being so unselfish.
Crespo gets the chance. He shoots. Great save. They score! Unable to keep it out despite initially making contact with the shot of Josh Crespo is Simon Holbert as he pounds the ball out to midfield in anger. It's 3-0 UMass Boston, and the Beacons, barring the unforeseen, appear well on their way to a berth in the semifinal round for the 5th straight year.
Well, Josh Crespo was the leading goal scorer as a freshman at Nazareth College, the Empire 8 Rookie of the Year, really highly touted player coming in UMass Boston, and he struggled this year. He had some great chances, but the goalie always made some big saves. That time, Holbert probably should have had the save, but it was a well-struck ball. It's a tough spot, diving down to your right, and it had just enough power to slide through the paws and go in, and that's big because Crespo's another guy who, at least last year, proved he could be a big-time goal scorer for a playoff team. And De Silva didn't have an assist all season. Now he's got 2. This is really nice for UMass Boston to get him a little bit of confidence after he was in the midst of a goal-scoring drought.
So UMass Boston with the 3-0 lead as they appear well on their way to a W here, but still plenty of time to go, 33 minutes. But with the way the Huskies have scored this year, it would take a Herculean comeback for Mike Keller's team to keep their season alive and win their first ever East Conference tournament game. As the Beacons have possession towards midfield, Crespo gets it near side, connecting now as UMass Boston motors forward with an opportunity to turn the dagger. Eric Murakami trying to feed it forward but turns it over as De Silva was his intended target. Mbongo watching as Shedia Gonzalo motors forward, but the turnover leads its way to Julio De Silva. De Silva towards the center of the pitch. Chance here now for Edson Marcus, right back to Julio. De Silva clearly taken down by the arm of the defender Corman, who looked up at the heavens after expecting a call that never came. And that's how you know you're guilty, when you're already complaining when the refs don't even make the call.
Well, this is interesting because we saw 100% what we expected. As soon as the Beacons got that second goal, they've had more room to go forward the last 5 minutes than they had the entire 50 minutes because Southern Maine's pushed 3 players forward.
And here's Mbongo forcing a turnover, going right around the D, and he will score. In fact, it'll be an assist by Mbongo, who will connect there with number 11, Sam Anderson. And just like that, the Huskies are on the board. And he was our player to watch for a reason. That was a heck of a play by Mbongo.
Well, Mbongo was almost slaloming his way through the Beacons defense with so much speed, able to just get around some sloppy defending. And Anderson wisely followed it up, his second goal of the season after leading the team last season with 8 goals. That's a big goal for Southern Maine because it not only brings them back to within 2, 31 minutes left. You still have a chance. 3 goals is going to be a mountain to climb for Southern Maine, but you needed 1 quickly. And here comes Chris Garcia in for Edson Marcus. Marcus, a very strong defensive midfielder, but he was a bit guilty on that one, pushing forward, looking to get involved offensively. The other thing is Edson, he's a non-traditional student. He's a little bit older than your traditional college student. You have to think about his minutes throughout this tournament because the Beacons, if they do get to the championship Sunday, will play 3 games in the span of 5 or 6 days. So you want to make sure that he's fresh and able to go the distance on Saturday and Sunday.
So the Beacons surrender their first goal to Southern Maine now in over a couple of seasons.
First goal in 6 games. The Beacons had shut out Southern Maine in each of the last 5 meetings.
Incredible as the Huskies are on the board. It's now 3-1. Castro Dreyer gets the feed from his backers and then sends it back towards midfield, but Mbongo's right there to head it forward. And it's been Janata Mbongo, our player to watch, who's lived up to the billing. He scored those 2 late goals in their victories late in the year, and he continues to excel as he gets the assist on the first and so far only goal for Southern Maine as this one comes out of bounds off UMass Boston's Juan Nieto.
Well, we got our track meet because Southern Maine is pushing bodies forward and the Beacons come up with the tackle, and now you see a sea of white going forward and you only have 4 defenders back. This is going to be a really wide open game, and the Beacons are okay playing like that. They're fine winning this game 4-2, 5-2. You lose the shutout, you're not as worried about conceding a second goal as long as you get the 4th goal first. For Southern Maine, yes, the emphasis is on scoring, but you also don't want to allow the Beacons to get a goal right back here in the next 5 minutes because all of a sudden that goal was for naught. If you find yourself right back down by 3 with an offense that isn't quite as potent as the Beacons.
Mull able to head that one forward, and then whiffing on an attempt there was Benjamin Musese, the team's goal-scoring leader this year. And now De Silva turns it over to Gorman. Gorman connecting with Anderson, the scorer from moments ago, who was Johnny on the spot after Mbongo went around 2 defenders and set Omar Castro Dreyer up to give up that first goal of the season against Southern Maine. That one cleared out of harm's way, far side, but it'll go way out of bounds into the bench for the Huskies. We're under 30 minutes to play now here in the second half. UMass Boston leading it 3-1. Goals by D'Souza, De Silva, and Crespo. And the late goal by Sam Anderson, number 11 in blue for the Huskies, have got us right here. 3-1 UMass Boston as that's pounded out of harm's way by Crespo. Chasing after it, D'Souza. One-on-one there with Shedi Agbanzalo, sends it all the way back towards midfield. But the Beacons knock it down. And now Crespo and company with a chance here as Josh watches and now sets up Nieto. One touch looking back for De Silva, but he was out of position there and unable to dribble that one forward.
Well, it's funny because Zechariah Shive, the left back, was throwing up his hand asking for an offside. There were 2 defenders who were still behind Julio De Silva. Right now, Southern Maine's defense is not communicating well enough. You're going to try to pull an offsides trap. Better make sure that you're pulling an offsides trap. And the Beacons kind of capitalized there as the passing, it's been good, but it could still be a little bit better as UMass Boston looks to put this game away.
Oh, a heck of a move by Murakami, spinning through 2 defenders and keeping his dribble, setting up De Silva, one-on-one with Agbanzalo, and then aggressively Agbanzalo taking De Silva down, no call, as this one comes right back to midfield, and a setup here for Anderson.
Munir and Malik set the tone early. He's going to let contact go. That was a lot of it from both sides, but as long as no one's being dirty, and Malik's going to let them play on. And thus far, we've seen a really competitive battle between these 2 sides. It hasn't gotten chippy at all.
Holbert sends this one all the way down, sent back towards midfield by the right leg of Martinez. Unable to settle it down there was UMass Boston, but eventually it is Nieto getting the feed and moving over midfield to find De Silva. De Silva's got D'Souza streaking, but Gorman aggressively playing him, forcing him to give it up. Far side as Crespo was looking to connect there with Herrera, but unable to do so, out of bounds, and a throw coming for Southern Maine.
Yeah, that was the right idea. The Beacons recognized they didn't have numbers, played it back to Crespo. Crespo made the right pass, just a bit too strong, but Herrera's got to be there a little bit sooner. UMass Boston has to keep the proverbial pedal to the metal right now and end this game. Southern Maine right now has a little bit of momentum after scoring that first goal. It's the first time they scored against the Beacons in a while, and I'm sure their leaders were telling the team, hey, this is a team we haven't scored on in a while. This is a chance for us to maybe get the biggest win in the last decade for this program, and just trying to keep themselves in this game for as long as possible. Down 3-1, they're still in it. That next goal either ends the game or puts all the pressure back on the Beacons.
Mbongo took it away from Murakami on the far side. Anderson finding Mull, tries to go right back to Anderson before Mull has to apply pressure to take the possession away from the very aggressive defender Gomes, and this one eventually does come out off of Southern Maine. 26-25 to go, second half action. We'll get a substitution for the Huskies momentarily. Looks like it'll be at the next whistle as the Beacons will throw this one in before they can do that. UMass Boston leading 3-1. They led 3-0, but the goal by Anderson on the eve of Halloween, looking to put a scare into the Beacons' hopes of winning the LEC, but still plenty of time for the Huskies. With 25:50 to go as this one's sent all the way down by Southern Maine, chased down by Mauricio Martinez, sets up Omar Castro-Dreyer, pounded out, didn't get all of it with the attackers in his face. That was Anderson as Garcia watches it go out of bounds for a throw-in coming from Shive and the visiting Huskies.
And if you're a Southern Maine fan, it's a busy night back on campus. Their women's soccer team in the 4-5 game, they'll host UMass Dartmouth later tonight. Their field hockey team is the 3 seed in the LEC tournament. They're playing Fitchburg State. That game just went to double overtime. So very good fall thus far for both UMass Boston and Southern Maine.
Far side here as De Silva finds D'Souza, and then Rafi taken down, favoring his leg. And we'll see what we get here out of it. Looks like the Beacons will get at least a free kick as taken down D'Souza as he's back up to his feet. But a golden chance here for that fourth goal for UMass Boston.
Yeah, Abatum Gebrejesus is claiming that D'Souza went down with very little contact there. This is the type of free kick I was talking about. You have Crespo, who's so good with the left leg, along with Murakami. And D'Souza is typically the guy you'd use with the right foot, but I think it will be one of the Beacons' lefties, although Esteval Gomes is over there. It looks like Juan Nieto's actually going to be over the ball, one of the lefties, along with Gomes, the righty.
See what they do here is Gomes will fake it, and Nieto will take it right in front, but headed out of harm's way by who else? Janato Mbongo, who has been the man of the hour here for the Huskies. This comes out of bounds, and the Huskies will keep possession.
I know that that's close, and it's difficult to get the ball over the wall there, so there's some people who like the idea of just passing it and trying to get the head on the ball, but in that situation, I want to give myself a chance to score on the shot. I've seen Eric Murakami score on a direct free kick. Marcelo Cunha used to be phenomenal at it. One of the assistant coaches on this Beacons team, an alumni, but also Crespo has a really good left foot. I wish UMass Boston had been a bit more aggressive on that particular free kick.
And that was Julio De Silva tumbling over as he was trying to draw a whistle near midfield. D'Souza, meanwhile, loses possession. Scheib fighting for it out there as Mbongo eventually takes it away, looking for Anderson. Instead, here's Mullen. He's taken down from behind. That's an easy call as Garcia is the guilty party, setting up a free kick for the Huskies.
And I think this is a chance to take a shot on because you're a little bit further out, so it gives you a chance to put the ball over the wall and then down if you can beat Castro-Dreyer from about 27, 28 yards. It'll be interesting to see. Right now it's Chris Pepin, the junior, who's the only player to have started every game. The junior back looks to be the most likely option, although they do have so much height. Could see them just try to ping one in and loft it in there for one of the heads of their several six-footers.
There is Pepin sending it forward, looking for a deflection in front and getting his leg on it, but unable to send it towards the near side post was Anderson. And just like that, the Beacons get possession on a goal kick. But a good idea there for the Huskies as they almost turn that into a goal.
Well, it would have been offside either way, so that goal would not have counted. I believe it was the first player there was offside along with the second one. So UMass Boston catches Southern Maine in the offside trap a little bit, and that benefits the Beacons. Southern Maine nearly able to create something there.
Beacons now getting possession back towards Castro-Dreyer as this one is sent towards midfield. Beacons' John Santos is able to settle it down as this one comes off the chest of number 17, Mauricio Martinez. UMass Boston with 22 minutes separating themselves from a chance at Keene State in the semifinal round. But they will need to continue to play well against these Huskies if they're going to avoid a comeback from Southern Maine, who's really ramped it up here in the last 10-15 minutes.
Well, season on the line, a lot of seniors on your team. Realistically, this is probably took a little bit of time for them to get used to a playoff atmosphere, but they've been able to really battle these last two games, earning that tie, earning the win when their season looked essentially over. And this is a talented team. Yes, they've had their struggles. They haven't gotten all that wins, but we've seen it at individual spots or brief moments. I mean, they have some talent to compete with these teams. It's just playing a consistent 90 minutes that's been a struggle.
Tumbling down there on the far side was Gomes. Esteval wanted the call, doesn't get it. Instead, it's a free kick the other way for the Huskies. With 21 minutes to go here in the second half. Beacons getting some fresh legs out there. As I mentioned, John Santos checking in moments ago. Andrew Sawyer also a fresh leg out there for the visiting Huskies. Number 27 in blue, as this one is pounded by Murakami deep towards midfield. Settled down there, but D'Souza tumbles down like a tree in the forest, and he'll helplessly watch as Anderson sends it off Mbongo's right leg. Mbongo pops it up in the air, played aggressively by Garcia, and then sent towards the net by Anderson, but gobbled up easily as Castro Dreyer will slow things up with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, and UMass Boston's putting a little bit more of a defensive lineup out there. You have Garcia as the defensive midfielder, but John Santos is a guy who's filled that role at points. He's not as aggressive going forward. He's more of a possession midfielder, and then you have Juan Nieto playing as a midfielder out wide, who's played as an outside back. So this is a more defensive group from the Beacons, trying to maintain this 3-1 lead and not allow Southern Maine to get any closer in this contest. So the Beacons go offensive towards the end of the half, early in this second half, and were able to not only score the first, but then open up a 3-0 lead. Now Jake Beverlin is just trying to make sure that this game is a nice, easy finish for his side. They've never lost in an LEC tournament game here at home.
Man went down. That's Christopher Garcia favoring his head. So he was taken down around midfield. He's back up to his feet. But we do have a stoppage. The clock still... Well, they did stop the clock with 19:37 to go. Garcia went down into a crouch and then popped right back up. He's clearly feeling it right now. We'll get a couple of subs for the Huskies momentarily. No moves yet for Jake Beverlin.
And Munir Malik wants the Beacons trainer Ed Perkins to check on Chris Garcia. Obviously, head injuries in any sport right now are very you have to be very cautious at this point. So they're not going to take any chances with Garcia. The Beacons can bring him back on either right away or, because this is the second half, you're able to sub back on. So they're going to send Garcia over. He's been checked out by Ed Perkins, and it looks like he'll check on shortly, although Munir Malik has a short conversation there with Jake Beverlin, potentially about the foul that led to Garcia holding onto his head.
Martinez sends it deep, looking for D'Souza, but it's headed out of harm's way by Shediak Manzalo. Meanwhile, the Beacons get possession. Santos tried to just toss it back for Garcia, who, as you mentioned, came right back onto the pitch. It was deflected towards the near side where Martinez found his partner in crime, Santos, and then going down again is Garcia, looking for the foul and getting it as he was collided with by Anderson.
No, that was Gebrejesus.
Gebrejesus, yep.
It was a horse collar tackle. Just grabbed him by the neck and kind of pulled him down. It's the second or third time that Gebrejesus has been whistled here in the second half.
So Gebrejesus, the guilty party, and we haven't seen any bookings yet today as the Beacons watching in that first battle against the Huskies. There were 2 yellow cards given to Southern Maine. No, nothing red. As Garcia settles it down and then launches it into the air towards the bench of the Huskies, and that's where it in fact does make its landing for a throw-in with 18:35 to go. Substitution for Southern Maine as the Huskies will get some fresh legs out there, one of them being James Hutchison, who played a lot in the first half. Looks like Ramadan also out there.
Yeah, so they're going to bring on the speedster, and then we saw good things from James Hutchison. He had the best chance of the first half. That ball that fell to him, point-blank save by Omar Castro-Drea. Otherwise, it would have been 1-1 at the break. So Southern Maine's going for it. They have to. But they have a variety of different ways they can beat you right now with the speed of some of their players. But also Hutchinson is a little bit stronger. And first half, we saw 1 or 2 guys in the Beacons offensive half when UMass Boston controlled. Now they're pushing 5 or 6 players forward, and it's interesting, UMass Boston has kept 3 or 4 players in the offensive half looking for that counterattack. I wonder how long that Jake Beverlin's going to be content to play in his normal formation rather than maybe provide a little bit of extra defensive cover for that back four in the Beacons defensive midfielder.
Well, Midnight hour, the witching hour, if you will, on the eve of Halloween is fast approaching here for Southern Maine. As they're, I guess you can't really call it a Cinderella campaign when you're the 6th seed, is going tumbling over like a train wreck. I believe that was our player to watch, Mbongo, who went flying. Boy, he's an aggressive player out there.
Well, yeah, Garcia got underneath Mbongo and took the worst of it, but he was clearly at fault there, impeding the run of Janata. And this is a decent spot. You can't put this one on target, but again, you can loft the ball into the box and try to get a good header.
That one is sent towards the box by Sawyer, knocked back out towards the center of the pitch, and then here come the Beacons the other way. D'Souza on an aggressive defensive effort from Sawyer, and then, by Santos, as Sawyer then lives up to what I just called, as he played aggressively on D'Souza and forced it out of bounds for a Beacons throw.
Well, he made a really nice play there because not only did he stop the run of of D'Souza, but then Sawyer was able to knock it out of bounds. Beacons had a 3-on-3 chance again, and again, that fourth goal or the second goal for USM is going to be so big in this game.
And here's Mbongo trying to make it happen as he's 3-on-3 with his teammates, connecting near side Anderson, but he was offsides. And again, just a bit too far out in front of the defense, much like they were on that free kick a few minutes ago.
I want Mbongo to be a little bit more selfish there. We saw him beat the Beacons, at least one defender, if not two defenders, on the goal where he got the assist, put it past Castro Dreyer, but Sam Anderson getting that last little touch. All the credit should go to Mbongo, but in the end, it was the touch that, as the ball was about to go over the line, that gives Anderson the goal. But Mbongo, that soft little pass, it really hurt the Huskies because it didn't have enough power to get to Anderson. It also caused Anderson there to be offside. He was waiting for that run. Either you got to release that ball earlier or you got to go head straight down and really attack, or at least make the defense think that you're attacking. He was a little bit indecisive and allowed the Beacons to get out of danger in that situation.
Well, that time Sawyer was unable to keep it in bounds, but it was a break, in fact, for the Huskies as he turned it right over for an odd man rush the other way. With 15 minutes to go, though, this one comes out of bounds for a throw-in. Beacons will take it from the near side, as connecting there and getting it right on back is Eric Murakami. Murakami sending it far side, knocked down by the chest of the Beacons forward. That was number 11, Juan Nieto, but number 18, Gerardo Castaneda, who I have not mentioned since early on in the first half. But Castaneda back out there for Jake Beverland's club, and he's the man who just got taken down there from behind, and he'll draw a free kick here for UMass Boston.
Well, Gerardo's a player who typically plays as an outside back. Today's in the midfield. Started the game, hasn't played as much here in the second half, but he's absolutely reckless in the best way. He's a guy who's not afraid of contact against bigger players. He's not afraid to go 1v1. Scored an absolutely phenomenal goal against SUNY Plattsburgh in the Beacons' first win of the season, where he went through 3 players and scored at the near post. And he's a freshman who has a really bright future for this Beacons team.
Off the free kick, that one blasted out of harm's way by Southern Maine. Sending it far side was Herrera. And now Nieto trying to streak around the defense of Mull, but good play by Mull to at least prevent him from doing so before he sends it out for a throw-in just to the left of the corner flag. As we approach the 13:40 mark here in the second half of a 3-1 UMass Boston lead.
And an illegal throw by UMass Boston. That's the second of the game, one on each side. That should just never happen.
Similar to an illegal inbounds in basketball, something you don't see that often. The officials don't even call it that much at the higher levels, but at this level and in soccer, you'll certainly see it as that one comes out. And now another throw-in, this one legal by UMass Boston, as the Beacons trying to finish off what will be another victory against the Huskies, as that centering opportunity by, I believe, D'Souza on the far side, gobbled up by Holbert.
Another really nice play, though, by D'Souza. He didn't get it quite far enough off the line as Holbert was able to get to it, but he knew that someone would be there. He had Santos at the back post with no defender, and that's a really nice job. As Southern Maine, another illegal throw, and he knew it as he dropped it.
Jeez.
I think the players right now are a little bit in their own heads, because as he was dropping the ball there, Sawyer kind of slowed it down, recognizing it was going to be an illegal throw, but he dropped it nonetheless. I mean, it's almost comical. Like, it should be second nature for these players who have played soccer for a dozen years, 15, 20 years. Throw-ins are a part of the game. I mean, you don't practice throw-ins necessarily, but you shouldn't be having this much problems, especially in a playoff game.
Absolutely, as a couple of players colliding, but nothing to come of it. And then turning that one over was Agbanzalo. Sending this one down for the streaking Castaneda was D'Souza. But a good play by Sawyer, who sends it just out of bounds. But the clock is not the friend of the Huskies right now. And as Sawyer turned it over on the illegal throw-in moments ago, he knew it. With his hands on his head, knowing that every second counts for a team trailing by 2 in a playoff game. Santos drops it back for Castaneda. Gerardo just uses Sawyer, and that's going to turn into a corner kick for UMass Boston. So a good idea and a smart play there by Gerardo Castaneda.
And here's the gamesmanship from UMass Boston. You're up. It's a playoff game. Mauricio Martinez is in no rush to head over there, as Munir and Malik will say, hey, let's speed it up a little bit. But this is a good opportunity for UMass Boston. Only their third corner kick of the game. Saw a couple of good balls into the box from Martinez the first time around. UMass Boston with a chance to put this game away right here with that fourth goal.
Folks, stay tuned to the Beacons Broadcasting Network. After this one at 7:30, we'll have the women's soccer battle in the quarterfinals. As that centering feed from Martinez is unable to find the twine, as I believe that was Santos penetrating late to try to get that one in. It's off of John. And so here come the Huskies back the other way.
Well, John can't believe it because he thought it went off. The defender was right next to him. Agbanzalo, it looked like he might have gotten his shoulder on it. So the Beacons were surprised that it went out for a goal kick. Another nice ball, though, from Mauricio Martinez. He's really been giving the Beacons an opportunity to put a good shot on target. They just haven't been able to connect.
So the Huskies, with the minutes winding down, we are now at 10.5 minutes to go on a 2-goal deficit. Southern Maine, of course, has only scored more than 2 goals on the road once this year, as that one is saved by Castro Dreyer off the shot attempt there from Scheib. Yassine Mahmoud took the shot from the far side, number 14, not 17, as that one is cleared all the way down for, well, Rafi D'Souza, who, if it's not Julio Da Silva, certainly a candidate to be the player of the game today, as that is out of bounds. The Beacons will throw it in, and they'll take their time doing so, I would think, with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, this game has gotten a little bit chippier, and the contact level has definitely gone up. But Munir and Malik is just kind of looks like he's having a leisurely walk or leisurely stroll. He's not calling much. He's making sure that there's no safety issues, and then he's just letting the guys play.
That's a long throw in, and Holbert will take advantage by coming out and fielding it on the fly as he launches that one on the boot out towards midfield. Hutchison off his chest, then off his right leg, trying to connect on the far side with the streaking Hami Ramadan. Not many people can outrun him, but doing his best, Leo Herrera, as he gets there right in front of Ramadan. It comes out of bounds, and that, I think, is going to be a goal kick. Yes, it will.
That's just a great job by Herrera, protecting the ball, not allowing the Southern Maine player to get to it or to play it out for a throw-in, and that allows you to kill some clock. The count will probably be in effect here against Omar Castro Dreyer, but you get 10 seconds once the ball's placed. You can easily be wily about it, take a while to place the ball, move the ball around. There's a rare call there as Garcia. Garcia's going to need an ice bath after this game. Maybe tomorrow is probably going to want to warm up first, but he has been hit hard in this second half. Typically has been the player who has been finding himself on the turf.
That was Zechariah Scheib, who was the guilty party after decking Chris Garcia. And now the Beacons moving back the other way. Nieto, Juan, setting it up for D'Souza. No, I was right. It was Castaneda with 8.5 to go. But this one comes off of the Beacons. And we'll actually get a free kick here.
And I think both women's teams at this point have made their way outside. Their game will start 35 minutes after the two teams have cleared the field for this game. So it's a 7:30 start. Probably start a little bit after that, depending on how quickly not only does this game wrap up, but these guys leave the field. It's going to be a very, very cool game tonight as the temperatures have only dipped. I mean, we're in the press box, and I feel like it's gotten 5 to 10 degrees colder up here, and we only have a window open. I can't imagine how cold it is out there on the field with the wind probably whipping off the harbor as it typically does here in Boston.
Sawyer with a nice move to get around the Beacons forwards. And now here is Mbongo as he hands it off Hutchison, give and go right back to Mbongo, but was unable to settle it down for a dribble play, and instead it's cleared by the Beacons, and Mbongo's still down right in front of the UMass Boston box. So he's off sides right now. He's going to have to get up if he's going to help his team out. Now he is up to his feet as UMass Boston leads it 3-1 with 7:18 to go here in the second half of play. And we'll get a whistle as Mbongo goes down again. And now arguing with the official is Shive. He is getting in the official's face for a moment, but they will just give a free kick here to the visiting Huskies of Southern Maine. That free kick taken now by Chris Pepin. Pepin, number 12 in blue, as he sets up to launch this one in. An opportunity here on side, but Castro Dreyer punches it out of harm's way. And before Mbongo's able to boot that one, it was partially deflected, and the Beacons take advantage moving forward. Castaneda pops it up over the leg of the defender, that being Pepin, before it's sent all the way back in by Sawyer. Castro Dreyer will take his sweet time getting to that. In fact, he'll just let it go because we have a whistle and a free kick coming for UMass Boston. 6:28 to go. The Beacons looking to head to the LEC semifinals. This comes out of bounds for a Sawyer throw-in. 27 for the visiting Huskies takes possession here. He'll try to avoid his third consecutive illegal throw-in here in the second half. He's had some issues as we get a substitution. Taking a seat, Yassine Mahmoud. Coming on in for him, Ibrahim Mohammed, number 23 for number 14. Here is Sawyer launching it in. Bit of contact there as Nieto took the body on Hutchison. And now here comes the Beacons led by Reven Rodriguez. Rodriguez connecting there. Here's D'Souza looking for his second. He scores! And Ralphie D'Souza, his second goal of the game. He's got 2 goals and an assist. And that, my friends, may be the death knell for the visiting Huskies 2018 campaign. It's 4-1 UMass Boston.
Again, unselfish play. Reven Rodriguez was driving. I thought he's going to take the shot. He's going to take the shot. And so did Southern Maine's defense, which opens up Rafi D'Souza. Really, really unselfish play. Rafi's got 2 goals in this game and an assist. Julio De Silva's got a goal and 2 assists. This is what UMass Boston wanted, a game that got a little bit wide open. In the end, we talked about it. Could the Beacons get the 4th goal? Could Southern Maine get a second? And UMass Boston putting this game away for sure with 6 minutes left.
Launching that one is Hami Ramadan, but unable to and come anywhere close to the target. As with 5.5 to go, you said it, Seth, the Beacons appear on their way as they lead it 4-1 now over the visiting Huskies of Southern Maine. And that rematch against Keene State on Saturday is going to be quite a Donnybrook, as these two teams very familiar with each other, having played the regular season finale between the two squads. And UMass Boston winning that one 2-1 in overtime.
And I like this move right now from Southern Maine. They're going to bring on senior Kevin Dowling, a chance to get a couple final minutes in his final collegiate game. A nice move from head coach Mike Keller.
Dowling, number 16, checks in as he and the Huskies play out their final 4:43 of their 2018 campaign, as that is towards the net, and a collision there between Rodriguez and the netminder Holbert, but Simon holds on, and then he'll blast this forward where his 3 attackers are waiting. Settled down there. Good one-touch feed, connecting, and then unable to handle it, Muhammad, as Ibrahim turns it over. Sent back all the way down by Euron Texera. Taken in by Rodriguez. Sawyer gives him the old shove with the shoulder and is able to send it back towards midfield, but turns it over back to UMass Boston. Huskies then get possession at midfield, trying to stretch it for Hutchison, who was so far off sides that it was obviously going to be a call, but gobbled up by Castro Dreyer, and he'll slow things up with 4 minutes to go.
That is Rocky's 4th goal of the season.
So D'Souza, with his 4th of the season, 2 today, doubling his production here on the 2018 campaign in just 1 game after playing 11 during the course of the regular season.
Well, it's also good because D'Souza was a guy who missed essentially 3 games. He was injured in the opening 5 minutes against Plymouth State a couple weeks ago. He missed 2 games in a row. Didn't play much against Keene State, partially because he was coming back from an injury, partially because it got chippy. And Rafi would probably admit it. Occasionally he's a bit of a hothead, and that's not what you want. Beacons couldn't afford to lose Rafi to a red card for a game like this. Potentially multiple games depending on what the red card infraction was. So you get him back tonight. He's been exactly what you need. And now you're going to get a confident Rafi D'Souza heading into the weekend where the Beacons are going to play defenses that are a little bit sounder, a little bit stronger than Southern Maine's, and you're going to need to be clinical in your finishing, and that's what D'Souza's done today. I mean, he's factored into 3 of the Beacons' 4 goals, and both of his finishes have been really, really good.
Far side here, the Huskies trying to put every last bit of energy into their waning moments of their campaign as the 2018 season will come to an unceremonious conclusion for the Southern Maine Huskies with 2.5 to go, trailing by 3 goals. That one coming out of bounds off of Rafi D'Souza, and so the throw-in coming for Southern Maine. Beacon still playing quite aggressively defensively, forcing the turnover there, as they don't want to let anything through. Onside is Revan Rodriguez, as Agmanzalo was way back towards the box. It is jockeying for between the duo of Rodriguez and Mbongo, as that one is sent up into the air to be headed forward there by Kevin Dowling, the senior we spoke about seconds ago. Beacons get it in their own zone, and then sending it forward now will be Teixeira as he'll dribble it and then pound it up towards midfield.
Sean, I'd just like to take a moment to give a big shout-out to Southern Maine and their coaching staff, because a couple years ago, Beacons beat this Southern Maine program 9-0 and then 9-0 in back-to-back seasons. This team has come so far the last 2 years. Last year, I think they had a better overall roster. I mean, they went 6-11-2. They had the LEC Rookie of the Year, Richard Glemewu, a goalie who was really their backbone, who was their best player. But he transferred to a Division II school, and they were picked 9th. Everyone kind of expected, losing Glemewu, losing some of their top goal scorers, that they wouldn't be competitive. Well, they were able to battle this season. They had a lot of veterans. They're a team that never gives up. They keep fighting with all of these athletic players. And to get here, to be in the LEC tournament for the first time in a decade, this is a really a big positive for the program. Yes, they would have liked to have been more competitive today, but just to be here is huge for Southern Maine. Remember, up until the final 5 seconds on Saturday, they were out of the conference tournament. They needed a goal. I mean, granted, they could have scored it in overtime because that game would have gone to overtime. But otherwise, they would have been out of the conference tournament for a 10th straight year. Would have kind of felt like they had a really negative season with the 2 wins. Getting the win today, or getting the win on Saturday, getting into this conference tournament, regardless of the result, it's going to feel like a bit of a positive for Southern Maine based off where their season was just a week ago where they were all but out of it.
Castro Dreyer cleans that one up on the long lead pass intended for Hutchison. And with 16 seconds to go, he and the Beacons will count down the moments as UMass Boston survives and advances for the 5th consecutive season. Your UMass Boston Beacons are headed to the semifinal round of the Little East Conference Tournament. They defeat the Southern Maine Huskies at home by the final score of 4-1. As UMass Boston got the early advantage, a 3-0 lead. Cutting into it were the Huskies of Southern Maine to make it 3-1, but ultimately Rafi D'Souza, Julio Da Silva, Josh Crespo, and the UMass Boston Beacons just had too much offense for a Southern Maine team that struggled in that capacity all season long.
Well, Southern Maine played a good first half. They kept it to 1-0. They had a chance to tie it, and then UMass Boston really capitalized early, getting that second goal. Game opened up. They got a third one. Southern Maine did a nice job to cut it back to 3-1, but today it was just a combination of Da Silva and D'Souza who were too much. Those 2 players played one of their better games of the season. First time they both played really well in this at the same time, and Southern Maine just didn't have the capability to keep up with those 2. Question now for UMass Boston is, can they continue playing well against better competition? Because if UMass Boston has their back 4, has Omar Castro Dreyer, has their depth, they just need the goal scoring, and they can do that if those 2 players can be unselfish and clinical when they are taking shots. Today, those 2 players were at their best, and it gave UMass Boston a much easier game than the first time around when this was a 1-0 contest between the 2 teams in the regular season heading into the final 5 minutes of regulation.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Beacons, with the win, headed to the semifinal round for the 5th straight season, and they'll meet Keene State for the second time in 3 games. They'll be playing the Owls. So very familiar, these 2 squads. It was an overtime affair last time out. We anticipate it'll be a great one. What do you see as the Beacons head forward here into the semifinals?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to be chippy. We saw it on Friday night. It was a chippy battle. The benches nearly cleared in the first 5 minutes. And that's partially two teams that really wanted it, and it's also partially that both of those teams are prone to maybe making some poor fouls and protecting your teammate when you think that there's an insult, and you have to be smarter than that because you can't afford to pick up a red card on Saturday, not be able to play in your conference championship, and leave your team shorthanded. So you have to be smart about that, but you're also going to see a much higher level of competition in that Keene State is deeper than Southern Maine. Their talent level is higher. The Beacons are going to have to be smart. They're going to have to defend well. They're going to need Omar Castro-Dreyer probably to play really well, and they're going to have to be just as good, if not better, at finishing their chances because they're not going to get as many grade A chances as they've had today. They're going to have to hope that De Silva, De Souza, one of the Rodriguez's, whoever it is getting those good looks and is converting them because that's what UMass Boston needs. They're not a team like 2 or 3 years ago where they're going to put up 4 or 5 games in a conference semifinal. This team, they're going to win a conference semifinal. It's going to be 2-0, 2-1, 1-0. They don't have the kind of goal scorers that they've had in years past, which puts even more pressure on the guys who are supposed to be scoring the goals to really convert when they get those opportunities.
Take a look at the final stats for this 4-1 triumph for UMass Boston. The Beacons out shooting the visiting Huskies 12-7, 6-4 in shots on goal. Meanwhile, in corners, the Huskies didn't get a single corner kick all evening long. 3 for UMass Boston. However, they didn't score on any of them. And a lot of fouls set, 25 fouls, more fouls than shots in this game today.
Yes, but part of that is a playoff atmosphere. Part of that is the game got open, and that's when guys were kind of forced to foul, trying to get the ball back. Southern Maine, I would say most of their fouls came desperation fouls late, trying to win the ball, being overly aggressive, and kind of the same thing for UMass Boston. It wasn't really that dirty of a game. Fortunately, with the exception of Garcia with the head injury, and he was able to stay on, no one seemed to be seriously injured. So a lot of fouls, but it wasn't a dirty game, just the kind of accumulated late.
UMass Boston winning this one 4-1, 2 goals by De Souza, 1 by De Silva, and 1 by Crespo. And the only goal scored by the Huskies by Anderson for Southern Maine. Let's look ahead to Saturday's battle against Keene State, the third-ranked team in the LEC. The Beacons will battle with the Owls for the second time in 3 affairs as they will battle in that LEC semifinal at EastCon at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see if the Beacons can head to the LEC Conference Tournament for a chance at their 4th title since 2014. But we always thank you for listening to the Beacons Broadcasting Network. I also want to thank our Beacons Broadcasting Network crew, our producer Seth Orensky, our director Kelly Danahy, Jared Colte on the camera, and of course Seth. Thank you for joining me on the air as color commentator. For everyone involved and for you at home, good night, good luck, and good soccer. Stay tuned for women's soccer action on the Beacons Broadcasting Network as the third-ranked Beacons women's team will look to overcome Castleton and advance to the semifinals just like the men did moments ago. Until next time, we'll see you right here on the Beacons Broadcasting